A young woman with pink eyes looks on in wide-eyed shock. She falls backward down a staircase, thinking she was going to die without a fight. Her body lies twisted at the bottom of the stairs as a figure watches from above. A cruel voice curses Ryan, declaring that idiots like her need to die. Kiarian lets out a terrified scream as she falls. While two maids cry out for Miss Ryan in horror, a woman with reddish hair gives a malicious smirk. The faces of her stepmother and stepsister Sharon flash through her mind. A memory shows her younger self clutching a stuffed rabbit, tearfully asking why she is hated. In a hazy memory, a kind maid reaches out to comfort her younger self. The maid gently holds the hands of a crying young Adriana, offering solace. Snap! Adriana's eyes fly open as she wakes up in her bed, stunned. She spots a large, pink stuffed rabbit sitting beside her bed in disbelief. Adriana realizes it's the same doll she received from her brother long ago. A sudden realization strikes her as she quickly gets out of bed. Touching her reflection in the glass, she understands with a blush that this isn't a dream. Overcome with emotion, Adriana stares in wide-eyed wonder at her new reality. A title card dramatically announces her new life. A princess reincarnated as a duke's daughter. She ecstatically celebrates being born with a gold spoon, a life of wealth and privilege. A maid opens the door to check on Miss Adriana, only to scream in panic at finding her collapsed on the floor. The maid nervously reports the situation to Miss Sharon, who is still in bed. Sharon sits up in shock and anger, demanding to know how Ryan is still alive. Annoyed, Adriana sits up in bed and mutters about Sharon, who scoffs at her resilience. Sharon crosses her arms, vowing that Adriana won't get away with this. Adriana fumes angrily before her expression shifts to one of deep thought. Holding her stuffed rabbit, she wonders if recalling her past of being bullied has triggered these memories. She concludes that the shock of falling was the catalyst for remembering her previous life. In a memory, her past self is shown as a simple farm girl who loved to read books. She recalls a particular novel from her past life titled The Story of Ramona. The novel was an action story about Ramona Alta, who overcame her humble origins. A brief glimpse shows the two main romantic leads from the novel she read. The two protagonists of the novel are shown holding hands in a tender moment. She reveals her new identity, Adriana Crescente, younger sister of the novel's male lead, Theodore. Realizing her joy was brief, she despairs that she's a side character fated to die early at the hands of her new family. The story ominously transitions to the events that follow her death. She explains that, in the novel, her brother Theodore avenges her death by taking on his stepmother and stepsister. The story's plot ends with Theodore becoming the new duke and marrying the heroine, Ramona. Adriana erupts in frustration, refusing to accept an ending where everyone but her is happy. Calming herself, she reflects that living two lives has made her stronger and less fearful of her stepmother. Determined, Adriana sits with her arms crossed, resolving to change her fate to avoid death. She laments that with her father dead and her brother sent away, she has no allies in the house. With a new plan forming, she walks over and opens a dresser drawer. Adriana opens a jewelry box, recalling her stepmother's obsession with appearances. A hopeful and determined smile spreads across her face as she looks into the box. She thinks about all the people in the novel, her thoughts landing on a man with light purple hair. Her mind then shifts to another potential ally, a handsome, silver-haired man. Finally, her thoughts drift to a stern-looking man with dark hair. Creak! With newfound resolve, Adriana opens her window, vowing to survive and secure her gold spoon life. She begins to get ready, meticulously checking her hair, makeup, and dress. Spin Adriana twirls proudly in her finest available outfit. She resigns herself to her old dress, noting her stepmother hasn't bought her new clothes in years. A young woman with dark hair laments having to fix an old childhood dress, but sits down to sew it with resolve. Fiddle! She adjusts the ruffled collar of her newly fixed blouse, looking pleased with her handiwork. With a proud and happy smile, she shows off her completed, elegant outfit. An elegant tea party is in progress, filled with delicate sweets and the sound of a woman's refined laughter. In a lavish drawing room, two red-haired women enjoy tea with a man who has white hair. Peek. The dark-haired young woman peeks in from a doorway, wistfully noting how happy they look. She identifies the two women as her smiling stepmother and her stepsister, Sharon. A close-up shows the serious, thoughtful expression of the white-haired man. The young woman steps forward and politely greets the man, identifying him as Second Prince Leopold. She offers a bright smile while holding a small bouquet of pink flowers. Her stepmother addresses her as Rihanna, asking with a bitter tone what she is doing there. Adriana explains that she was walking in the garden when she saw a special guest and came to offer greetings. She smiles, maintaining her polite and cheerful demeanor. Adriana continues, stating it would be disrespectful to ignore the prince's arrival, as Leopold listens intently. "Isn't that right?" she asks with a beaming smile, leaving her stepmother speechless and annoyed. Sharon shouts, "You!" in fury, but her mother quickly calls her name to silence her. Glare. Marianne and Sharon stare daggers at Adriana, who simply offers a serene smile in return. Adriana gives a subtle, knowing glance toward the prince. Leopold kindly asks Adriana if she is all right. She politely explains the common rumor of her heart disease, thanks her stepmother for her great care, and internally notes this is why Sharon got the engagement. He expresses relief and hopes to see her out more. Her stepmother nervously asks Leopold about the engagement with Sharon. Leopold smiles warmly, reassuring her not to misunderstand and that he isn't asking to cancel the engagement. As Leopold smiles pleasantly, Marianne breaks into a nervous sweat. Sipping her tea, Adriana casually asks how long the Duke Crescente's seat has been vacant. She declares that the situation cannot continue and wishes to revisit the engagement once the next successor is chosen. Leopold is inwardly impressed, realizing she is deliberately pressuring her family since Theodore is away at school. He continues his thought, noting that the second son, Rudolph, is still far too young to be a contender. Leopold smiles and suggests there's no need to rush, while Marianne and Sharon look on in dismay. Adriana explains her family. Her older brother is Theodore, she is the second-born, and Sharon is a stepsister with no ducal blood. She then introduces the youngest, a small boy named Rudolph. Adriana clarifies that Rudolph is her younger stepbrother, the son of her father and stepmother. She recalls how her stepmother, Marianne, schemed to place Rudolph on the Duke's seat, driving Theodore away to boarding school after their father died. A painful memory surfaces of Marianne mentally abusing her and isolating her from society. She reflects that the second prince was clearly not an easy opponent for her stepmother to manipulate. Adriana deciphers Leopold's subtle message. He would marry her if Theodore became duke, or Sharon if Rudolph did, though she suspects he doesn't want to marry either. As Leopold and Sharon prepare to depart, he turns back with a pleasant smile. Adriana returns the smile, secretly thinking of Leopold as a key to securing her comfortable gold spoon life. Leopold turns to leave, unaware of Adriana's determined internal monologue. As the prince's carriage waits, a voice urgently calls out, "Your Highness." Leopold pauses and turns, intrigued by the call to wait. He sees Adriana approaching, who is surprised he's addressing her by name. When he asks what's the matter, she presents a small, ornate box, explaining she forgot to return it. He curiously asks what it is, and she reveals it's a hairpin intended for Princess Cynthia. Adriana sweetly asks if he could pass the gift to his sister, apologizing for her rudeness as she was unable to attend events due to her health. Leopold confirms with a smile that the gift is for his younger sister, Cynthia. Click, he opens the box, his eyes widening in surprise. Sparkle, a stunning, flower-shaped hairpin glitters inside the box. He recognizes the rare and valuable hairpin, noting the famous artisan who crafted it. Leopold asks if she's sure about giving away such a hard-to-come-by item. Adriana replies with a radiant smile that the pin would look much better on Princess Cynthia's silver hair. A man with white hair gives a knowing smile and agrees. He turns to a girl with a green bow, saying farewell as their carriage is ordered to depart. With a clip-clop of hooves, she watches the grand carriage roll away. A smirk crosses her face as she thinks to herself that everything went exactly as planned. She is suddenly startled by a maid rushing towards her from behind the trees. The maid joins her, and they both share a bright, cheerful smile. The maid expresses immense relief at her recovery, noting she can now walk and even spoke with the second prince. She promises to take more walks and eat properly, while the maid silently wonders where she learned to sew so well. As they walk, the maid marvels at how she suddenly decided to meet the prince and expertly remade an old dress, finding it amazing. Winking playfully, she cheekily attributes all her newfound talents to her recent fall down the stairs. The maid is left utterly bewildered by her strange explanation about the stairs. Her cheerful humming stops abruptly as her expression freezes in shock at something she sees. An older woman and a younger girl, both with red hair, stand waiting with stern, disapproving glares. The maid greets the woman and Miss Sharon, as Rihanna realizes they were waiting for her. Sharon immediately confronts Rihanna, demanding to know what she was doing with the prince. Rihanna panics, wondering if Sharon saw her give the prince a present, before quickly denying that she did anything. The stepmother scolds Rihanna for running out undignifiedly, calling her an embarrassment, while Sharon sneers. Rihanna timidly apologizes, explaining she just wanted another look at the handsome prince. Sharon gets aggressively close, accusingly asking if Rihanna is trying to seduce the prince. Sharon tells her to give up, claiming the prince would never notice someone so dumb and boldly declaring that the position of crown princess is hers. Rihanna feigns shock and stammers that she would never dare to imagine herself as the crown princess. She continues to placate Sharon, saying the prince is much better suited for someone as pretty as her. Her stepmother sternly commands that from now on, Rihanna must join them in the dining room for meals. Sharon throws a tantrum, refusing to eat with Rihanna, but her mother internally silences her, explaining that since the prince saw Rihanna walking, they can no longer keep her confined. Rihanna overhears their conversation and internally retorts that she doesn't want to eat with them either, feeling sick at the thought. Her determination is as sharp as the lines of her self-made dress. A few days later, a lavish meal is prepared. The family gathers around the opulent dining table, attended by maids. A maid interrupts the meal, announcing the arrival of an invitation for the madam. The elegant blue envelope, sealed with a royal crest, gleams with importance. It's announced that the invitation from the royal palace is for the entire Crescente ducal family, delighting the younger children. As the maid discreetly slips an invitation toward her, Rihanna's eyes widen. "Lady Rihanna!" The stepmother sharply intercepts, demanding the invitation and claiming it must be a misplaced one for a young boy named Rudolph, who eagerly reaches for it. The maid hesitates to obey the unjust command, and a shadow falls over Rihanna's face. Rihanna finally speaks up, directly addressing her stone-faced stepmother. Clutching the invitation, Rihanna holds her ground with a look of hopeful determination. Her resolve is clear as she refuses to let go of her chance. With a sudden snatch, Sharon rips the invitation from her hands, shouting that she's ridiculous and knocking over her teacup. As Rihanna cries out in surprise, Sharon furiously questions why someone so idiotic would ever receive a royal invitation. Sharon's angry expression turns to shock as she reads the invitation, catching her mother's attention. Sharon confirms the invitation is indeed for Rihanna, and it's from Princess Cynthia, leaving her mother to wonder why the princess would ever invite Rihanna. Rihanna calmly demands her invitation back, leaving Sharon growling in frustration. Still fuming with disbelief, Sharon yells that it's ridiculous and tosses the invitation back at her. As Sharon complains, her mother consoles her by promising to order the trendiest and most outstanding dress for the occasion. Rihanna timidly requests a new dress too, but her stepmother scoffs, telling her to wear something she already owns. Rihanna explains her old dresses no longer fit, and wearing a house dress would tarnish the family's name at the palace. Relenting only to avoid tarnishing the family's reputation, the stepmother grudgingly agrees to order a dress for Rihanna as well, earning a resentful tea-esque from Sharon. With a bright, innocent smile, Rihanna thanks her stepmother graciously. The moment her bedroom door slams shut, she lets out an exhausted sigh. Her sweet facade drops, replaced by a cold, weary expression as she admits it was hard to control her temper and her face hurts from fake smiling. Exhausted, she collapses onto her bed, reminding herself she must continue acting foolishly to keep her stepmother and Sharon off guard. Looking at the invitation from Cynthia, she smiles, pleased that her plans are yielding results so quickly. Reading her invitation, Adriana hums happily as Princess Cynthia expresses how moved she is by their friendship. Cynthia is shown writing the letter to Adriana, hoping they will soon become better acquainted. Plop. Adriana happily flops onto her bed, declaring she's safely on to the next stage. Getting closer to Cynthia, clutching the letter, she looks up with a sweet, determined smile and vows to do her best. Outside the Grand Ducal Mansion, a voice calls out for Lady Adriana. The maid opens the door, announcing that the dress from the boutique has arrived. Adriana tells her to bring it to her room. Ta-da! The dress is revealed to be a tacky, garish creation, and both Adriana and the maid react with absolute horror. Adriana is appalled by the cheap ornaments and shabby, poofy design, thinking she's never seen anything so cheap-looking. With newfound determination, Adriana reaches out and commands Leia to get her a sewing kit. Leia is incredulous, asking if she can really revive the disgusting dress, while Adriana soberly admits it won't be easy. Holding the sewing kit with scissors at the ready, Adriana declares with conviction that they must save it. She worries that wearing such a strange dress would allow her stepmother to spread rumors about her mental health and lock her away again. Glint. Her eyes flash with resolve as she vows not to fall into their trap so easily. Toss. Adriana dramatically throws the horrid pink dress into the air, ready to transform it as a shocked Leia watches. Adriana explains that while the design is awful, the cloth is high quality, comically stating she believes in the patient's will to live, impressing Leia. Surrounded by an aura of flowers, Adriana smiles, predicting they'll be staying up all night to finish the dress. Chirp, chirp. As morning light streams through the window, a voice calls for Lady Adriana, Leia finds Adriana asleep at her desk after a long night of sewing and gently calls out to her. Adriana stirs from her sleep, drowsily asking for Leia. Leia apologizes for waking her, explaining she had wanted to let her sleep longer. In a panic, Leia announces that the Madam and Lady Sharon are leaving for the castle right now. Adriana sits up, a calm and knowing expression on her face as she processes the news. Her stepmother Sharon and a maid wait impatiently by the front door, dressed and ready to depart. Adriana appears at the top of the stairs in her nightgown, prompting someone to ask what's wrong with her. Her stepmother and Sharon glare up at her, demanding to know why she isn't ready to leave. Adriana calmly states she had no suitable clothes to wear, leading her stepmother to smugly conclude she'll be staying home. The stepmother tells Sharon they should go, and Sharon beams with excitement at leaving Adriana behind. The stepmother and Sharon turn their backs on Adriana and head for the door. Standing alone at the top of the stairs, Adriana smiles confidently, declaring that this is only the beginning of her plan. In a flashback to the previous night, Leia watches in awe as Adriana furiously tears, whacks, and cuts the dress apart. A young blonde-haired boy in uniform spins dynamically in a powerful whirlwind motion. Creak, an ornate red carriage with a royal crest pulls up to the estate. Adriana, now wearing her beautifully transformed dress, is elegantly escorted by a royal attendant. At the palace entrance, a guard politely asks Adriana to show him her invitation card. She calmly presents the official blue envelope signed by Cynthia. A royal announcer declares the arrival of Lady Adriana Crescente as she makes a dazzling entrance. Adriana wears a confident, gentle smile, her transformation complete. A close-up highlights the elegant ruffles and details of her beautifully remade gown. Guests begin to murmur amongst themselves, wondering if this is truly Adriana Crescente, who is rumored to be in seclusion. The whispers continue as onlookers note how well she looks, questioning the validity of the rumors about her illness. Amidst the crowd, Adriana spots her stepmother and Sharon, their faces filled with shock. Her stepmother and Sharon stare in disbelief, wondering how Rihanna got there, while Sharon panics to her mother about what to do. Sharon frantically pleads with her mother to do something about Adriana's unexpected appearance. Noticing their distress, Adriana lets out a small, triumphant scoff. Princess Cynthia makes her graceful entrance, flanked by her attendants. Cynthia warmly takes Adriana's hands, sincerely thanking her for coming to the party. Sparkle. Cynthia touches the hairpin from Adriana, admitting she would have been upset if she couldn't come. Beam. Adriana gives a dazzlingly bright smile, humbly saying it was nothing. Cynthia gushes over receiving the invitation and the beautiful hairpin, praising Adriana's fashion sense and noting how hard it is to find that artisan's work. Adriana then invites Cynthia to a small tea party. Adriana and Cynthia stand together, holding hands and smiling, cementing the beginning of their new friendship. A man named Bryson introduces himself, while his companion asks if Adriana remembers him from their childhood. Beam Adriana gives a radiant smile and thanks them for their attention. From across the room, a disdainful figure watches as Adriana effortlessly charms a group of young men. Tiesk, her stepmother, and Sharon glare venomously, silently fuming at her social success. Clack! Her stepmother drops her fan in a rage, demanding to know what Adriana is planning. Feigning innocence, Adriana apologizes meekly as her stepmother, and Sharon corner her in the foyer. Her stepmother's sharp voice cuts in, interrogating Rihanna about the origin of her dress. With a polite smile, Adriana reminds her stepmother that it's the very dress she had provided. She explains she tailored the old dress herself, leaving her stepmother and a stunned Sharon utterly speechless. Adriana claims she learned from books while inwardly acknowledging she mastered the skill in her past life. Her stepmother and Sharon can only stare, completely thrown off by her unexpected resourcefulness. Finding her voice, her stepmother grounds Rihanna for 3 days, much to Sharon's surprise. Sharon protests loudly that the punishment is too lenient after the humiliation they endured, but her mother tells her to drop it, citing Princess Cynthia's presence. Her stepmother turns her attention back to Rihanna, with a warning in her voice. She presses Rihanna, demanding to know if she said anything inappropriate to Princess Cynthia. Playing innocent, Adriana feigns confusion at her stepmother's pointed question. As Sharon objects to letting her go so easily, her mother advises her to be patient for now. Tiesk, her stepmother, internally resolves to find a suitable husband to marry Rihanna off quickly. HMPH. Sharon fumes that Rihanna doesn't even deserve to be married off, let alone eat. Her stepmother reflects on her own lack of power, realizing she must marry Rihanna into a wealthy family to build connections. Sharon points out the suspiciousness of Rihanna's sudden recovery and newfound confidence, questioning how she could change so drastically. Her mother dismisses the concern, convinced that Rihanna is too disheveled and stupid to be capable of any real trickery. She believes Rihanna was raised too submissively to ever defy her, then promises to make her only daughter Sharon the most powerful woman in the nation. Cupping Sharon's face, she reaffirms her promise with a chilling intensity, solidifying her daughter's loyalty. Outside the door, Adriana overhears everything, a confident smirk playing on her lips. The scene shifts to a lavish study, highlighting a sparkling gold dress form. In the richly decorated office, Ken stands thoughtfully before a wall of books. An attendant with light purple hair approaches from behind, addressing him as Master. Ken inquires about the Crescente family's business, and his attendant reports that the stepmother is mismanaging it, but then pauses with new information. He reveals rumors of the eldest daughter's full recovery and recent appearance at the palace, which piques Ken's interest. A small, energetic boy with blonde hair dashes into the scene with surprising speed. Adriana's treasured pink rabbit sits expectantly on a large, organized desk. "Dear Theodore, this is Rihanna." She recalls her stepmother cruelly burning Theodore's last letter, explaining why she never dared to reply. She writes that she understands he stopped sending letters, knowing they would be intercepted by their stepmother. Now she has a plan, dressing in clothes borrowed from a maid named Leia and tucking the rabbit into her bag. Disguised, she walks purposefully through the bustling city streets, carrying the important letter. She mails the letter at a public post box, assuring him their correspondence will now be safe from their stepmother. With a hopeful smile, she signs the letter with love from his sister Adriana. She arrives before an immense, imposing building, marveling at its sheer size. A sign reveals her destination, the famous Magnolia Trading House, her family's rival. Inside, the trading house is absolutely stunning, a testament to its immense wealth. Sparkle. Polished shelves gleam, displaying an array of expensive handbags, shoes, and hats. Her attention is caught by a beautiful tiered dress, which she admires with wide eyes. Twinkle, twinkle. Lost in awe of the incredible merchandise, she's approached by a smiling shop attendant. Glance. The attendant's pleasant expression falters as she takes in Adriana's shabby attire. Adriana firmly tells the attendant not to judge her, stating she is looking for someone. She then offers a disarmingly bright and confident smile, catching the attendant off guard. Gulp. As the attendant invites her in, Adriana steels herself to meet the master of the house. She enters an incredibly lavish office to find Ken sitting behind the grand desk, the master of the Magnolia Trading House. The scene focuses on a man identified as the master of the Magnolia Trading House. He invites Adriana to take a seat in his opulent office, and she agrees. Adriana looks on with a curious and slightly wary expression. An explanation describes the magic stone as an extremely rare and valuable artifact, overflowing with endless magical possibilities. The master, wearing a mask, thoughtfully notes that information about the magic stone is incredibly valuable. Adriana asks what he can offer in exchange, and he states it will depend on the quality of her information. She confidently declares that she knows the stone's location and he'll be able to retrieve it himself. Flinch. Adriana panics internally, realizing her knowledge comes from a book in her past life and that telling him the truth would make her sound insane. The master gestures towards her with a charming smile, leaving her momentarily speechless. Adriana laughs nervously, questioning how a normal girl could retrieve the stone, but he smiles back, asking how a normal girl would know where it is. Sigh. She claims she just stumbled upon the information and threatens to end the deal if he continues to be suspicious. Her expression hardens with determination. Gloomy. She reflects on the shady and rapid growth of the rival Marin Trading House before catching herself for saying too much. The master admits she drives a hard bargain, but assures her he wasn't rejecting the deal. As she stands silently, the camera focuses on the pink rabbit doll peeking out of her bag. He suddenly demands she give him the rabbit doll, leaving her completely stunned. Confused, Adriana clutches her rabbit doll as he reminds her of her own words. He points out that she only happened to know the stone's location. He deduces that as a normal girl, she wants to trade her valuable information for money. He explains the risk of his company wasting money if her information is false, but she firmly insists the stone is there. Adriana recalls that in the original story, the stone was found at Broken Mountain, so it should still be there, undiscovered. The master insists the rabbit doll is necessary as a sign of mutual trust for their deal. He clarifies that she can think of it as collateral, just like a bank would use. Cradling the doll, she wonders why he is so insistent on taking her rabbit. He repeats the first part of his offer, her hand in marriage for his full support of Theodore's succession. He finishes the deal, In exchange, the new duke must back his bid to become crown prince. Adriana's expression hardens as she thinks to herself, "Indeed." Leopold watches her, a confident smirk on his face as rose petals drift around them. Adriana's internal monologue reveals a crucial secret. She already knows who wins the fight for the throne. She recalls the Lamona story, the book from her past life that holds the future. The story's outcome is clear in her mind. The person who becomes crown prince is the first prince, Claudian, as shown in a regal portrait. A somber portrait of Leopold appears as she recalls that he is fated to be defeated. Leopold looks on, completely unaware that Adriana knows his political ambitions are doomed. Adriana realizes that siding with Leopold would mean going against her brother, who supports the winning side with Claudian. Amidst a cascade of white flowers, she decides her course of action until her brother returns. In a vision of herself in a white gown, she resolves that she must remain neutral. She understands that choosing a side now would only create an awkward and dangerous situation later. Returning to the present, Adriana politely deflects Leopold's proposal, stating she must discuss it with her family first. She strategically explains that as the acting head of the duchy, her stepmother's approval is necessary for such an important decision. Though his eyes narrow, Leopold accepts her answer for now, agreeing to let the matter rest. Seizing the opportunity, Adriana asks if she can make a request in return. The two stand together in the garden, the negotiation not yet over. Panicked, Adriana recalls his request. Since she and Cynthia are on a first-name basis, he wishes to share that same privilege. A close-up shows Leopold's pleasant smile as he makes his simple request. Though slightly flustered by his forwardness, Adriana agrees to his request. "Okay," Leopold says cheerfully, immediately inviting Adriana to the dining room. As Adriana calls out his name, Leopold looks back with a smug smile, thinking to himself that it wasn't a request, but a heads up. A few days later, a carriage makes its way through a quiet, sunlit town. Clip-clop, the sound of hooves echoes as the carriage proceeds along a stone wall. An elite agent from the Magnolia Trading House, Tail, expresses his concern that this trip is a bad idea, calling the destination a dangerous neighborhood. He continues, warning his passenger that the area is especially unsafe for a young lady. Adriana smiles confidently, explaining she requested an escort precisely because she knows it's dangerous. Tail questions why she didn't simply ask the Crescente soldiers for protection. From his office, Ken gives an order, telling Tail to escort Lady Crescente to Blacktown. Ken expresses his complete confidence in Tail's abilities, leaving Tail speechless. Flustered, Tail stammers that it's not a matter of confidence as Ken walks past Adriana's pink rabbit. Ken picks up the pink rabbit with a knowing smile. Clunk. In the carriage, Tail sighs, resigning himself to the mission since it was a direct order. Tail watches Adriana, internally questioning her plans and her knowledge of the magic stone. Upon their arrival, Taylor helps Adriana descend from the carriage. Adriana looks around, immediately sensing the unsettling atmosphere of their destination. The scene pans up to show the old, imposing architecture of the town. The two walk closely together down a narrow, empty street. Tail warns Adriana to cover her head as he announces their arrival in Blacktown. Gulp. Taking his warning seriously, Adriana pulls her hood up, steeling herself for what's to come. They proceed through the grim streets, passing by shadowy and impoverished figures. Adriana flinches at the sight, as Tail advises her to avoid drawing attention to herself. Tail remarks on the deplorable state of the town, even at noon, and warns it will only get worse at night. Chills. A shiver runs down Adriana's spine as she nervously agrees. Adriana recalls reading in a book from her past life that the magic stone was located somewhere in Blacktown. She remembers the book didn't specify the stone's exact location, making her task more difficult. She asks Taylor why the Emperor hasn't intervened in such a lawless place, and he reveals it's under the jurisdiction of the Demon Clan. He explains that an agreement with the demons prevents interference, a revelation that shocks Adriana. A brief explanation identifies the Demon Clan as a non-human species from the demon realm. A historical flashback depicts the long-standing conflict between humans and demons, which escalated into a war over the magic stone where heroes named Lamona and Theodore were victorious. The narration confirms the humans' victory and shifts focus to the latter part of the war story. It's explained that during this period, the formidable leader of the demon army makes his appearance. Adriana fondly remembers this handsome and lonely character from the original story. As she daydreams about meeting him, two assassins sneak up on them from behind a wall. Ack. Clank. Tail swiftly moves to shield Adriana, blocking a sudden sword attack. "Who was that?" Tail shouts, while Adriana looks up in terror from behind him. Tail stands his ground, weapon drawn, protecting Adriana from the unseen assailants. The attackers, a man and a woman, reveal themselves. He tells her, Milia, that they should have watched longer. Tail recognizes them, identifying the pair as Gino and Milia from the rival Marin trading house. Tail demands to know why they're attacking as Milia draws her blades and flings one, retorting that he should already know. Gino leaps into the fray with a grin. Clang! Tail expertly parries his sword strike. Gino mockingly calls Tail Kenneth Relampago's dog during the clash. The name shocks Adriana, who realizes Tail works for Kenneth Relampago, the true master of the Magnolia trading house. Clang! Gino continues his assault, demanding to know why Tail is suddenly escorting a client. Ugh! Gosh! He presses harder, asking how much of a VIP she is as his blade grazes Tail. Screech! Tail pushes him back, lying that he's just helping out because they're short-handed, an excuse Gino finds laughable. Via! As the three-way fight erupts, Adriana screams in terror, covering her ears. Milia lands nearby, her attention fixed on Adriana, with a sinister smile, asking if it's her. Startled, Adriana gasps, clutching the collar of her cloak. Tail, still fending off Gino, feigns ignorance, asking what she's talking about and denying any knowledge of a magic stone. In a panic, Adriana wonders how the Marin trading house knew she sold information about the magic stone to Magnolia. Block, a man grabs Adriana, yelling for Gino to cover him as Gino intercepts an unseen attacker. Clang! Gino declares he is the attacker's opponent, engaging them in a sword fight to protect Adriana. Glint. A woman with purple hair reveals 3 daggers, preparing to throw them with a smirk. Whoosh! She hurls the daggers directly at a terrified Adriana. Adriana stares in shock as the daggers fly toward her. The 3 daggers gleam as they speed through the air. Adriana watches in disbelief as the daggers suddenly stop in midair. A man with pointed ears walks into the alley, warning that he won't condone any more fuss. Adriana looks up in stunned silence, realizing a magician has just appeared. The 2 groups look on in confusion at the sudden, powerful intervention. Gino calls out to Milia, who furiously demands to know why the magician is interfering. Milia charges forward, warning the magician to get out of her way. Ugh. Milia suddenly stops, realizing she's been frozen by restraint magic. Grit. Gino holds Milia back as she glares, cursing the powerful magician. Gino urgently warns Milia to stop, revealing the man is the crown prince of the demon realm who commands Blacktown, leaving Adriana shocked. Clench. The crown prince notes that since they know him, things will proceed faster than expected. Clang. The daggers fall to the ground as he asserts that Blacktown is his territory and questions their right to cause trouble. Gino laughs nervously, trying to downplay the incident as a small dispute. The crown prince ignores him, stating he heard something about a magic stone. Adriana's companion insists there's been a misunderstanding and that they were the ones attacked, but Gino quickly silences Milia and agrees they were mistaken. The crown prince listens to their frantic excuses in silence. The crown prince turns his attention to Adriana, who stammers in response. He looks down at her, commenting on her respectable appearance. He asks what a girl like her is doing in a rundown part of town, causing her to realize he saw through her disguise. She thinks an obvious lie won't work on him, as her companion stands ready to defend her. With his authority established, the crown prince declares that Gino and Milia are banished from Blacktown. A flustered Adriana silently wonders to herself if she really does know who he is. He praises her for being both careful and smart, adding that he's already given her plenty of hints. They continue their picturesque meal, with the pink rabbit sitting happily between them. Noticing she's finished, Ken suggests they move on to dessert. As a beautiful spread of cakes and tea is served, Adriana calls out to Ken. She formally requests a recommendation for an etiquette tutor through the Magnolia trading house. Ken questions her need for a private tutor, but she firmly asks him not to inquire any further. Adriana sits before her dessert with a look of quiet determination. The scene softly fades, transitioning to a different time and place. A cheerful maid with light brown hair smiles as she carries a tray laden with letters. The maid delivers the mail to Adriana, remarking that she has received a flood of invitations since visiting the princess. Overjoyed, Adriana tells the surprised maid they are going shopping and that she will buy her something. Adriana is shown dressed in a beautiful new gown adorned with roses, smiling with pure happiness. The maid, Leia, is teary-eyed as Adriana thanks her, privately vowing to win over her stepmother. The scene shifts to a wide, bustling street in a lively town. Inside a crowded dress boutique, shoppers marvel at the selection. Adriana encourages Leia and another maid to browse, pointing out the affordable, high-quality dresses. Adriana recalls the man who helped her, finally identifying him as Lord Kenneth Relampago. She pieces it together. Only Kenneth could order tail, and by calling himself Ken, he wasn't truly hiding. She remembers his advice to buy a plain dress for a disguise at a specific shop he recommended. Kenneth's confident smile flashes in her memory, leaving her momentarily stunned. Dressed elegantly in a new gown, Adriana stands lost in thought amidst a floral aura. Other shoppers happily discuss the boutique's popularity. Leia and her friend excitedly admire a dress, noting its appeal due to the great price and quality. Adriana reflects on how kind Kenneth was to share such useful information with her. She explains that her family's textile business is run by her stepmother Marianne, who has inflated prices. This created a burden on commoners, but Kenneth's trading house capitalized on the demand by providing affordable clothing. Her thoughts are cut short as she is suddenly startled. Thump! The ground trembles as monstrous shadows descend on the town and the citizens scream, "Monsters!" Leia panics and urges Adriana to run, who looks back in shock and disbelief. A horde of grotesque monsters fills the sky, as Adriana questions why they've suddenly appeared. Leia desperately shouts for her to let's go, pulling her into the fleeing crowd. As citizens scatter in terror, Adriana and Leia are swept up in the frantic escape. Thud! Amidst the chaos, Adriana trips and falls hard, a monster's shadow looming over her. Miss Leia cries out, unable to reach her as the panicked crowd pushes her away. Trembling on the cobblestones, Adriana calls out for Leia as a monster growls menacingly. Roar! A huge reptilian monster with glowing red eyes lunges toward her. Boom! Slash! In a flash of light, a silhouetted figure intervenes, slicing the monster in two. Her rescuer is revealed to be an elf-eared man, whom she shockingly recognizes as Beauregard. Beauregard kneels, calmly asking if she's all right, but she can only stammer in response. Ow! She flinches in pain as she touches her ankle, drawing his attention. He observes her injury with a serious, unreadable expression. Apologizing for his discourtesy, he moves closer, leaving her confused. Kya. He suddenly lifts her into his arms with ease. He tells her to hold on tight and leaps away as her heart pounds in her chest. With incredible agility, he bounds across the rooftops, escaping the chaos below. He lands safely in a deserted alleyway. Still holding her securely, he assures her it's safe now, and she flinches, still pressed against his chest. After setting her down, he tells her to stay put until the monsters have been defeated. As he prepares to leap back into the fray, Adriana calls out for him to wait. He pauses, turning back as she looks up at him. Flustered and speechless, fling. Screech? Plop. A nearby monster is swiftly killed and falls to the ground. Beauregard stands calmly over the defeated creature, his weapon smoking. A red-haired woman calls him Boer and asks to return, while he reports no casualties in their area. Meanwhile, a young man with blonde hair tends to Adriana's sprained ankle. Shah, a warm, holy light radiates from his hand, healing her injury. He smiles kindly, telling her she can try moving her ankle now. Adriana is amazed that the pain is gone, while Beauregard advises her to rest it. She marvels aloud at the fascinating sight of a demon using holy power. The healer deflects the praise, telling her to thank Prince Beauregard instead. He then coldly adds that he only treated a human because of the prince's orders, shocking her. Adriana stands before Beauregard, who leans against a wall with his arms crossed. He begins to leave, but she stops him, saying there's something she needs to ask. A horde of demonic monsters gathers as someone wonders why they have suddenly appeared in the area. Adriana sits in shock, realizing her retrieving the magic stone ahead of schedule might have caused a disastrous butterfly effect. They glide across the dance floor, enveloped in an illusion of blooming roses. As they dance closely, Adriana's eyes widen with apprehension. He compliments her beauty, while the surrounding party guests look on. Ignoring her protest, he continues to lead the dance with a confident smile. A man with white hair watches their dance with a cold, piercing gaze. I dream of health, wealth, and a long life. Adriana leans against a balcony railing, looking completely drained. She thinks back to being swarmed by Miss Churant and the others, recalling how scary their intense questioning was. Her moment of peace is broken as Count Relampago approaches, holding 2 glasses. He offers her a drink with a gentle smile. Adriana questions how he knew about an unreported incident, and he reminds her he owns the powerful Magnolia trading house. He admits that even his intelligence couldn't predict the monster's appearance, deducing they must have been provoked by something. The provoking object is revealed to be a brilliantly shining magic stone. Adriana remembers he specifically told her the monsters did not appear because of the magic stone. She reflects on his suspiciously deep knowledge about monsters. Flinch. The stunning realization hits her. He must be a demon. He asks if people believe demons were behind the monster attack, a theory she scoffs at as ridiculous. He suggests someone could be intentionally spreading such rumors, making her wonder who would do such a thing. He poses a critical question. Who stands to benefit most from worsening relations between humans and demons? With a somber look, he states that he takes full responsibility for the situation. Surprised that he would care, Adriana lets a small, genuine smile show. He compliments her thoroughness, noting she always profits from her ventures, and she confidently agrees. Caught off guard by his astute observation, she simply asks, "What?" He responds to her surprise with a bright, charming smile. Elsewhere at the party, the man with white hair smiles while chatting with other nobles. Count Relampago watches from a distance as he approaches the group. He cryptically remarks to his companions about dealing with pesky insects in his rose garden. With his gaze fixed on the man with white hair, he agrees that he will have to take care of the pests. He offers his terms, 50 gold for the information up front and 20% of the final selling price. Startled, Adriana boldly counters his offer, demanding 30%. Amused by her audacity, he agrees to her terms and she thanks him with a smile. Lift! She reluctantly hands over her precious rabbit doll. She confirms he will return the doll and questions its value as collateral, noting it has no special powers. Holding the doll, he looks at her with a knowing, confident smirk. It will do, he says simply, accepting the unusual collateral. He correctly guesses that since she's too old for dolls, the rabbit must be very precious to her. Tap. He sets the doll on his desk, observing that she seems to cherish it. He probes further, asking if it was a gift from someone important to her. She flashes back to a happier time, recalling how her brother gave her the doll, her only link to her blissful childhood. The rabbit doll sits on the desk as Adriana prepares to answer. She downplays its significance, claiming she only carries it around out of habit. His eyes narrow slightly, suggesting he sees through her deflection. Adriana forces a pleasant, businesslike smile. Cradling the doll, the master asks if it has a name. She cheekily says its name is Spoon, inspired by the Golden Spoon saying, then admits she just made it up, causing him to let out a small laugh. PF'd. He smiles and holds the rabbit, officially sealing their deal. Reach. Adriana extends her hand for a handshake, stating she looks forward to their partnership. With a bright smile, she finalizes their agreement. After she leaves, the master leans against his desk, thoughtfully observing the rabbit doll she left behind. He muses on her surprising visit while gently touching the doll. A serious-looking man with dark hair appears in the room. Slide. The master dismisses the man, saying, "There's no need to, Tail." Removing his mask, he reveals his face and admits he knew her identity from the very beginning. He explains that her refined appearance and demeanor made it obvious she was a noble, despite her act. Ken's attendant continues his report, noting that the mysterious woman wore a high-quality dress under her coat. Ken deduces her identity, realizing that her black hair is the most decisive clue, as only the Crescente family has it. A different attendant with dark hair connects the dots, confirming that the eldest Crescente daughter has recently recovered and started attending social events. Ken looks at the pink rabbit on his desk, musing that he doesn't know what Adriana is planning. With a confident smile, he concludes that she is certainly a very interesting lady. The scene transitions to an exterior view of the Grand Royal Palace. Inside, Princess Cynthia happily welcomes Lady Crescente, as Adriana recalls being invited back to the palace after the party. Adriana thanks the princess, who explains she wanted to have a private chat and invites her to sit down. A special teacup holds a beautiful blue flower, a gift from the ambassador in Arentia. As Cynthia pours hot water, she explains that the tea will change into a surprising color. Sparkle, sparkle. The tea transforms into a dazzling pink, leaving Adriana in awe. Adriana marvels at the magical and wonderful color as Cynthia giggles, pleased by her reaction. She correctly guesses Arentia is a country of magic and mentions her brother Theodore is studying there. Cynthia asks if First Prince Claudian also studies at the academy. After Cynthia confirms he does, Adriana is startled by the bitter taste of a pastry she just ate. Oops. A narrative summary explains the rivalry between First Prince Claudian and Second Prince Leopold, who is Princess Cynthia's brother. Realizing her faux pas, Adriana makes a mental note to avoid mentioning Prince Claudian in front of the princess again. Cynthia states that her brother, Leo, received a proper education in the empire despite not attending the academy. Adriana quickly praises the second prince, and Cynthia warmly agrees, calling him a kind and caring brother. Tee-hee-hee. The two share a light-hearted laugh, bonding over the conversation. Their chat is interrupted by the arrival of a man, prompting a surprised "oh my" from Cynthia. As Cynthia addresses the man as father, a shocked Adriana realizes who he must be. Her mind races as she identifies the decorated military man as His Majesty, the Emperor. A title card officially introduces him as the third emperor of the luminous imperial family. The Emperor asks Adriana if she remembers meeting him when she was younger, and she quickly assures him she does. He then inquires about her brother, Theodore, and Adriana reports that he is studying diligently. The Emperor smiles, glad to hear the good news about Theodore's studies. Clink. He picks up his teacup before making a suggestion. He invites Adriana to join them for dinner, catching her completely by surprise. The Emperor explains he wants to talk more, and Cynthia enthusiastically seconds the invitation. Adriana pauses for a moment, silently considering the unexpected and momentous offer. Being internally, she celebrates the incredible opportunity to dine with the imperial family, thinking there's no reason to refuse. While maintaining a calm exterior, she eagerly accepts in her mind as the Emperor notes there is time before dinner. The Emperor suggests a silver-haired man show Adriana the royal gardens until dinner time. Adriana is flustered once again, recognizing the man and stammering his name, Lonehearts. She wonders how he appeared so suddenly, joking to herself that the imperial family must enjoy making silent entrances. Lonehearts offers a charming, closed-eye smile in response. He graciously extends his hand to her as an invitation. Adriana looks at him, a silent thought passing through her mind. Taking his hand, she returns his smile as they prepare to walk together. While strolling through a beautiful rose garden, Lonehearts politely asks if she has other appointments. She starts to demur, but he kindly insists it's no trouble for him to postpone his duties. The two continue their pleasant walk down a path lined with vibrant red roses. They pause by a lush rose bush, sharing a comfortable moment in the sunlit garden. Lonehearts explains that the roses are used for a special tea that only the royal family enjoys. Adriana giggles, feeling charmed, as Lonehearts watches her with a soft expression. He then offers to prepare some of the exclusive tea for her, much to her surprise. Thinking it too precious a gift, Adriana politely tries to decline the generous offer. Lonehearts looks at her with a serious expression, saying he doesn't have the right to receive such a gift. His confusing statement leaves Adriana completely bewildered as he smiles down at her. Leopold steps closer, telling Adriana he is sure she has already considered his words. He leans in close, surrounded by golden flowers, and shocks Adriana by asking her to get engaged to him. Leopold feigns surprise at her stunned reaction, with a pleasant, teasing smile. FWIK. Adriana turns away, internally panicking over his proposal, and asking what will happen to Sharon. Leopold's expression turns serious as he questions why her family's opinion matters so much to her. Reaching for a rose, Adriana confirms that their opinion is, of course, important. She finishes her thought, telling Leopold it's because they are her family. Leopold considers her words, while she internally scolds him to have some common sense. Adriana worries that if she accepts the engagement, her stepmother Marianne will never leave her in peace. She imagines Marianne trying to poison her, realizing with a grimace that it's a genuine possibility. Leopold internally reflects that, from his perspective, Adriana seemed to be the one trying to get close to him. He startles her by suddenly appearing right behind her in the rose garden. Flustered, Adriana asks what he means by his accusation. He explains that her running to stop his carriage to deliver a gift was out of character for the composed lady he knows. Leopold concludes with a knowing look that her recent actions were very uncharacteristic of her. They face each other, the tension of his observation hanging in the air between them. Adriana blames her actions on a lack of education, but Leopold dismisses this, praising her unparalleled etiquette at the imperial party. A flashback shows her poised and elegant at the party, as he narrates that her composure was flawless. He finds it hard to believe someone so refined would act so rudely, leaving Adriana speechless. Oof! Adriana internally concedes that he is far sharper than she anticipated, as he voices his suspicion that she deliberately approached him and Cynthia. When he presses for confirmation, she quickly denies his accusation. Leopold gives her a subtle, knowing smile, clearly not believing her denial. He feigns acceptance of her excuse, but still urges her to consider his engagement proposal. Gesturing toward the roses, he calls his suggestion a pretty good one. Leopold makes a political offer. If they marry, he'll back Theodore's succession, but in return, the new Duke of Crescente must support his claim to the throne, leaving Adriana stunned. An image of him on the throne, with her at his side, illustrates the powerful alliance he is proposing. A carriage with the Magnolia insignia comes to a stop nearby. Inside the carriage, Adriana lets out a sigh of relief. She reflects on the appearance of the prince and worries about what might have happened if his magic hadn't stopped the daggers. Her companion apologizes, feeling he couldn't keep her safe. Adriana remains silent, still processing the unexpected attack from Marin's company. Elsewhere, Gino asks Milia how Marin knew about the magic stone. Back in the carriage, Adriana's companion reveals he has been secretly reporting information about the magic stone to the imperial family. She listens intently, suspecting the information was either leaked or that there is a spy in the palace. The crown prince remarks that the situation is a bad sign. Adriana wonders aloud why he helped them if the situation was so troublesome. Her companion coldly states that people are selfish and cruel, and the prince was simply cleaning up his own district, not helping them. Adriana quietly listens, contemplating his cynical view. He continues, warning that if her connection to the magic stone becomes known, it will be difficult to maintain even a moderate relationship. She recalls that the demon is greedy for the magic stone, and thinks about the original novel, The Story of Ramona. She remembers that in the latter part of the story, an army of horsemen stormed the palace for the magic stone, and the one who stopped them was Ramona. The main characters of the novel were Ramona, her brother Theodore, and the first prince, Claudian. She reflects on the story's holy blade, which her rabbit now possesses. The battle in the novel ended direfully, with victory for the sword god. She recalls the tragic outcome. The demon soldiers were lost, and the Prince of Horse survived alone, only to take his own life. Remembering that the prince had a brief but tragic role, Adriana identifies him as Bergermerd. She reasons that if Bergermerd were truly cruel, he would have simply killed all 4 of them, instead of just banishing 2. Believing he isn't a bad person, she hopes to have a chance to talk to him someday. A promotional image marks the end of the chapter. Adriana stands on a city street, looking ahead with a pensive expression. Ken smiles, holding the pink rabbit, and tells her that wearing a mask would be more conspicuous. As they stroll together, Ken asks to see her face, but she laughs, explaining the mask is just a concept. Adriana clarifies that it's a way of pretending not to recognize someone you already know. Ken offers a warm, sparkling smile while holding the rabbit, and Adriana looks up at him, captivated. He looks down at her and confidently states that she already knows who he is. Feigning ignorance, Adriana insists she doesn't know him and that his assertion is unfair. She continues to deny knowing him as he listens with an amused and gentle expression. With a slight bow, he formally introduces himself, asking her to please call him Ken. He reveals his ID is Leanne, looking at her with a knowing, charming gaze. Stunned, Adriana realizes he knows her secret nickname, Leanne. A cute chibi flashback shows Ken explaining he saw the name Leanne on the payment account. After confirming the deposit, Adriana asks for her rabbit back, but Ken distracts her by asking if she's hungry. Ken kindly invites her to have a meal with him, insisting that he will pay. Internally, Adriana questions what kind of unbelievable dream she has found herself in. Deciding she must listen to him since he knows her identity, she agrees to his proposition. The scene transitions to the bright and elegant interior of an upscale restaurant. Ken and Adriana are seated at a table with the pink rabbit, both looking over their menus. Ken explains they are treating her because her information greatly benefited the company, assuaging any suspicions she might have. When a waiter arrives, Adriana confidently orders a spicy steamed lobster, much to Ken's wide-eyed surprise. Ken smiles, finding her audacious choice logical in its own way. Adriana continues to list off an impressive order of grilled corn and salmon steak, also planning for dessert. Amused, Ken quietly notes to himself that she is an unexpectedly big eater. A lavish meal is served, and as Adriana looks on in awe, Ken invites her to help herself. She happily takes a bite of the lobster, but her expression immediately shifts to one of wide-eyed horror. Her face flushes as she silently screams about the spice, prompting a concerned Ken to ask, "Gawe, are you all right?" Ken explains that the dish is notoriously spicy, a favorite only among true heat enthusiasts. He graciously offers Adriana his own untouched plate as an apology for the spicy lobster. Passing his dish to her, he explains that he ordered too much and can't possibly eat it all. She recognizes the dish as the salmon steak she had ordered for herself earlier. Ken watches Adriana with a gentle expression as she eats the meal he provided. Taking a bite of the salmon, Adriana is overcome with delight at how delicious it is. Pleased by her reaction, Ken remarks that the restaurant is indeed very good. The two enjoy a peaceful and pleasant meal together on the restaurant's terrace. The romantic atmosphere is enhanced by an illusion of sparkling peonies blooming around their table. Their previous conversation repeats with Ken's assertion that she knows him, contrasting with her denial. Ken smiles knowingly, resting his chin on his clasped hands as he waits for her to solve his puzzle. An elf-like man stands behind her as she internally panics that she has altered the story's reality by changing the sequence of events. He looks at her intently, calmly asking if she has any reason to believe he is lying to her. Adriana thoughtfully tells him to find his companion, directing him to a specific street where she is likely hiding. Tap! A blonde elf appears beside her, and they both watch the dark-haired man. The blonde elf asks if she had other questions for Sir Belgard, leaving Adriana flustered and at a loss for words. Adriana looks on with wide, uncertain eyes. The dark-haired man calls out for Keel, who immediately responds and rushes to his side, leaving Adriana watching them go. In a sepia-tone memory, the dark-haired man's determined expression is highlighted. A flashback shows Adriana's panicked face beside him as she internally regrets not asking him a crucial question. Blushing and flustered, Adriana is surrounded by flowers as she processes her missed opportunity. His companions, a party of elves led by a female archer, are shown walking through town. Adriana smiles reassuringly at Leia, acknowledging how frightened she must have been during the ordeal. Inside a carriage, Adriana looks out the window, still troubled by the mysterious appearance of the monsters. A blade flashes through the darkness, signaling another lingering question. The dark-haired man is shown in a flashback, questioning why demons would destroy monsters to save humans. Adriana recalls the original story's lore. Demons and monsters entered the world together, and demons are selfish beings who can't be trusted. A character from her memories warns that getting close to demons will only lead to misfortune. Lost in thought, Adriana sits by a window with a bandaged ankle. A voice announces that her treatment is now complete, as the scene pans over a quiet town. Someone calls out to Keel, who smiles warmly while the dark-haired man stands in the background. The dark-haired man informs Keel that they must return to the demon world, where Keel's mixed celestial blood will prevent him from resting well. He advises Keel to rest as much as possible while he's here. Keel obediently agrees. The dark-haired man looks pensive, beginning to confess something truthfully. Keel examines his hand, admitting the excitement of battle kept him awake, and confirms his own demonic nature. The dark-haired man listens silently to Keel's introspection. With a flick, Keel slyly mentions how surprised the human girl was when he used divine magic. He asks if she is the same human his superior helped in Blacktown, referencing her past and present appearances. Keel smirks, pointing out that his sir has now saved the same human twice, but the man remains silent. The dark-haired man thinks of that person as an image of Adriana flashes in his mind. He sharply dismisses Keel's observation as nonsense. He turns and walks away, leaving the conversation behind. An ornate stained glass window illustrates the world's lore, showing it is split into 3 distinct realms. The lesson explains the first 2 realms, the celestial heaven and the human world. The third realm is revealed through the stained glass, the realm of demons, hell. The world's history is further explained, telling of adventurers who travel through gates to the other realms in search of treasure. A tutor discusses the legend of hell's entrance being guarded by a 3-headed dog, which Adriana correctly identifies as Cerberus. A woman in glasses smiles, complimenting Miss Rian on how quickly she learns. The tutor, Mrs. Padea from Magnolia House, is introduced as a trustworthy and discreet person as she concludes their lesson for the day. Padea announces their next lesson will be on imperial court etiquette, and Rian thanks her. Rian internally expresses her gratitude to Ken for introducing her to such a good teacher. The scene transitions to an elegant mansion at dusk. A voice from behind a closed door shouts in outrage, demanding to know the meaning of something. The furious voice asks who is importing cotton, as a startled Rian begins to answer. Rian reports that the Magnolia Trading House is behind it, personally organized by Count Kenneth Relampago. Her stepmother rages about the interference, vowing to have the Emperor punish Count Relampago. Rian quietly observes, thinking that the Emperor will likely side with Magnolia for his own advantage. A foot steps onto the stairs as a voice asks Ken if his goal is to ruin their house, and another voice calls out, "Hey!" Rian turns on the staircase to see a young woman in a pink dress looking up at her with crossed arms. The young woman in the pink dress glares down at Adriana with a stern, disapproving expression. She looks down from the top of the stairs, her arms crossed in defiance. Adriana looks up, recognizing her stepsister, Sharon. Sharon scoffs at Adriana's claim of being out for a walk, warning her not to wander around needlessly. Getting straight to the point, Sharon asks if Adriana remembers the invitation from the Imperial Palace. Adriana is stunned into silence as Sharon coldly forbids her from going. Adriana protests that she received an invitation too, but Sharon angrily accuses her of talking back. HMPH, Sharon dismisses her as ungrateful, leaving Adriana wide-eyed with shock. With a cruel, triumphant smirk, Sharon turns her back on Adriana. As she walks away, she reminds Adriana to remember what she said, leaving her stepsister speechless. Clench. Adriana grips the banister, her expression hardening with suppressed rage. Ugh. Back in her room, Adriana unleashes her frustration by throwing a pillow across the floor. Thud. The pillow lands with a soft thud as she stands panting, overwhelmed by anger. Grit. Adriana wonders how much longer she must endure their abuse as memories of their mockery flash through her mind. Bite. She bites her lip, desperately trying to push back the wave of despair. Clench. She clutches her hand to her chest, trying to regain her composure. Focusing on a stuffed rabbit, she resolves that she just needs to wait for the right time. The scene shifts to Adriana enjoying a quiet picnic in a sunlit field. Her peaceful demeanor shatters as she internally fumes that things are far too quiet. She reflects that her stepmother and Sharon have left her alone only because they are busy preparing for the palace trip. Thud. Adriana flops onto the grass, despairing that she can't go to the palace after finally befriending Princess Cynthia. Rustle. Her thoughts are interrupted by a nearby sound, and she looks up curiously. A man holding a bouquet of flowers stands over her, casting a long shadow. The man looks down, surprised to see her there. Sudden. Adriana jolts upright, shocked to see Sir Bellegarde standing before her. Panicking, she questions why he's here, and he calmly replies that he's also out for a walk. Bellegarde looks at her with a questioning gaze, repeating her excuse. Adriana stares back, equally confused by the coincidence. The two begin walking together through the quiet, sun-dappled woods. A small, sweet smile appears on Adriana's face as she walks beside him. She admits to Bellegarde that she never expected to see him in a place like this. He asks if her ankle is better, and she brightly confirms that it has fully healed. A faint, gentle smile graces Bellegarde's lips. Flustered by his smile, Adriana wonders why he traveled so far to be here. She remarks that this location is a long way from Blacktown. Bellegarde quietly explains that he came to visit a grave. His somber reason catches Adriana completely off guard. They arrive at a lone, weathered tombstone, and Adriana wonders why a grave is in such a secluded place. She looks closer and realizes there is no name carved on the tombstone. The bouquet of bright yellow chrysanthemums rests on the grass. Bellegarde stands before the grave, his expression distant and filled with sorrow. Adriana watches him silently, her heart aching with empathy. Gathering her courage, she softly asks whose grave it is. She waits with a gentle and patient expression for his answer. He explains it's for a foolish soul who never knew who or where they were. Adriana looks at Sir Bellegarde, her gaze filled with a deep sense of understanding. As he turns back to the grave, she realizes just how sad he looks. Tip, calling out for him to wait, she quickly approaches the gravesite. Adriana kneels beside Bellegarde, gently placing a bouquet of white daisies beside his own flowers. She tenderly takes his hand, her simple gesture catching him by surprise. Adriana recognizes a patch of flowers, which are identified as fleabane daisies. She explains that they're her favorite because in the language of flowers, they have a special meaning. She sits beside Bergamerd in the sunny field, sharing a peaceful moment. Bergamerd remains silent, lost in his own thoughts as he listens. Shine. As Adriana sits serenely, a memory of a younger, smiling girl appears in his mind. He seems slightly taken aback, still processing her words. Whisper. He thinks that she, like another child he once knew, cares too much. A memory reveals a young elf girl, joyfully explaining that the daisies mean reconciliation. The scene lingers on the peaceful, sun-drenched field of flowers. Now sitting on tree stumps, Adriana happily comments that the view is beautiful. They sit together in comfortable silence, looking out over the landscape. Her expression shifts to confusion as she quietly asks, "What?" The reason for her confusion is revealed. They are at a gravesite, and the daisies have been placed as an offering. Bergamerd looks down with a somber expression, a painful memory surfacing. A flashback shows him running frantically through a field. He watches the young elf girl from his memory running ahead of him among the daisies. In the memory, the girl looks back with tears in her eyes. The younger Bergamerd reaches out desperately toward her. His face is etched with anguish as he tries to reach her in the flashback. The vision ends with the girl falling back into a blinding light, lost to him. Back in the present, Adriana watches him with a concerned expression. Bergamard turns away, unable to hide the pain in his eyes. The quiet moment at the grave continues, now filled with unspoken sorrow. A gentle breeze rustles through the field of white daisies. They have returned to the tree stumps, the mood now heavy and silent. A bright memory of the happy, smiling elf girl holding a daisy flashes by. Sudden, Bergamard stands up abruptly, telling Adriana to forget what he said. He warns her that it's better if she doesn't associate with demons. He adds that if they meet again, she should pretend she doesn't know him. Bergamard walks away, leaving Adriana looking shocked and hurt. She watches him leave, completely stunned by his sudden dismissal. A flashback shows Bergamard looking determined in a different outfit. Adriana thinks that instead of being cruel, he has saved her more than once. Clutch. She holds her hand to her chest, remembering he never asked for anything in return. She declares that if she sees Sir Belgard again, she will talk to him, demon or not. She resolves that she will speak to Belgard because he is someone who helped her. Stride. Hearing her words, Belgard stops and turns back toward her, looking stunned. Abruptly, she holds out a small, wrapped parcel to him. She tells him hunger causes negative thoughts and insists he eat it. With her piece said, she turns and walks away from the silent Belgard. Holding the food, he thinks of his big brother. He remembers the young girl hopefully saying that reconciliation might be possible. He clutches his heart, recalling that a girl long ago said something very similar. Thud. His own cynical voice dismisses the hope as a mere flight of fancy. He turns and walks away, leaving the wrapped food behind in the grass. The scene changes to the mansion, where Adriana sighs that she's bored and calls the house shabby. Flail. She thrashes in bed, complaining that everyone left her alone to go to the palace, just as someone knocks. A maid enters and scolds her for being in bed, but Adriana dismisses her, saying she has nothing to do. She glumly thinks about her stepmother and Sharon preparing for the palace while she is left behind. Swish, swish. Clutch. The maid watches with concern as Adriana burrows deeper under the covers. A handsome man with silver hair arrives, causing the maids to stare in flustered surprise. In bed, Adriana is stunned to see him, realizing Your Highness Lowenhearts is here to escort her. Lowenhearts smiles warmly as Adriana secretly wonders what he's doing here. Clip-clop. Clack. Two elegant carriages travel along a road, signaling a journey has begun. Now elegantly dressed in a carriage, Adriana sits with a slightly nervous expression. Lowenhearts sits across from her, remarking that the second Imperial Prince has come to her mansion. He explains he came to check on her personally after hearing she wasn't feeling well. Lowenhearts offers the help of a palace doctor, and Adriana replies that his kindness has washed her fatigue away. Adriana thinks she's truly surprised that Lowenhearts came to get her himself. Urgh, she dreads the future, imagining her furious stepmother and Sharon berating her for riding with the prince. Lowenhearts maintains a calm and pleasant smile as he sits across from her. Adriana looks at him with a serious, contemplative gaze. Lowenhearts apologizes for any impatience, admitting his feelings have changed due to Lady Adriana's charms. She remains silent, thinking she needs to choose her words with great care. Adriana concludes he only approached her for political reasons and notes her birthday is coming soon. She asks Lowenhearts if he would be willing to wait until after her societal debut. He listens silently as she thinks to herself that she just needs more time. Believing her brother will return by then, Adriana hopes for a solution as Lowenhearts agrees to her terms. Lowenhearts gives a bright, happy smile, accepting her request. The scene transitions to a grand, brightly lit estate at night. An older man and his family welcome them with warm, open arms. A beautiful and elaborate meal is laid out on the table. Adriana and Lowenhearts join several others for a formal dinner party. Adriana puts on a pleasant smile during the seemingly cheerful gathering. The scene shifts to a serene garden of red roses under a starry night sky. Standing in the garden, Adriana sighs, thinking it was the most uncomfortable dinner she's ever had. She recalls how Lowenhearts smiled and stared at her tactlessly throughout the meal. She also remembers Sharon fuming with jealousy over the attention she received. Adriana sighs, worrying that her family will not let this matter rest when she returns home. She glances up at the full moon, her thoughts turning to other matters. She considers the political climate, concluding the Emperor intends to break the accord with the demon world. Elsewhere in the garden, Sir Belgard and a blonde companion discuss being rebuffed by the palace. Belgard accepts the slight, but his companion insists the Emperor is behind the trouble with the magic catalyst. Rustle. Belgard suddenly pauses, turning his head as he hears a noise from the rose bushes. Freeze! He raises a hand to silence his companion, listening intently. Rustle! The sound from the bushes grows louder, catching their attention. Bellegarde's companion turns sharply, demanding to know who is there. Phew! With a startled cry, Adriana tumbles out from behind the rose bushes. Bellegarde looks down, his expression shifting to surprise as he recognizes her. Stunned, Adriana looks up and realizes Sir Bellegarde is in the palace. His companion also recognizes her, remembering who she is. He recalls the moment Sir Bellegarde saved her back at Broken Mountain. Adriana panics, realizing she's run into demons and hoping no one finds out they were here. Bellegarde and his companion watch her silently, contemplating their next move. Adriana nervously thinks that she must have terrible luck. SHNNG. A sword is suddenly thrust towards her, its tip gleaming dangerously. Sir Bellegarde orders his companion to stop, calling him Keel. Clink! Keel lowers his sword slightly, but insists they can't let her live since she saw them. Adriana looks up at them, her expression a mixture of fear and defiance. She stands silently before the two demons under the night sky, their confrontation frozen in place. Grip. She holds his hand tighter, declaring she is the daughter of the Duke of Crescente. Bellegarde listens with a grim expression as she warns that the imperial family would hunt down her killer. Looking flustered but firm, Adriana tells him to leave quietly and avoid causing a scene. She proposes an agreement to both Bellegarde and Keel. They will pretend this meeting never happened. With her eyes closed, Adriana solemnly vows that she will not tell anyone what she saw. Erg. Keel expresses his unease, while Bellegarde remains silently contemplative. Adriana and Bellegarde exchange a final, meaningful look, a silent understanding passing between them. She turns away with a lingering sense of surprise from their unexpected encounter. Turning back with a gentle smile, she formally introduces herself as Adriana, or Rianne. She looks up at him, addressing him with a newfound confidence as Sir Bellegarde. His eyes narrow slightly, taking in her words with a thoughtful gaze. With a quick flick, he turns to go, telling Keel to move. Keel protests as a startled Adriana watches. Adriana stands alone, watching them depart with a pensive expression. As they walk away, Keel worriedly asks Bellegarde if he's sure it's okay to trust her. Bellegarde continues walking, coolly questioning if Keel truly trusts that human. He recalls a painful memory, stating that his past trust is precisely why he lost someone dear to him. His face is etched with profound sadness as he remembers his past failure. Bellegarde's thoughts drift to an image of Adriana, surrounded by a hopeful bloom of flowers. Whap! Back at the mansion, a hand swings through the air in a sudden act of violence. An enraged young woman with red hair moves to strike Adriana across the face. She furiously accuses Adriana of being shameless for acting friendly with the prince, leaving Adriana speechless. Her stepmother joins the tirade, shouting, "That's right, Rianne," as Sharon glares. Grit. Adriana endures their insults, accused of meddling and being embarrassingly ignorant. She internally reasons that it's better to bear the abuse, fearing they would poison her tea if she fought back. Clench. Despite her resolve, she grips her dress, suppressing her anger and fear. Her stepmother sentences her. As punishment, Rianne will clean the entire mansion alone tomorrow, and she meekly accepts. Sharon argues for a longer punishment, but her mother shrewdly notes that a visible scar on Adriana would only make their own lives more difficult. As her stepmother and stepsister walk away, Adriana steels herself, thinking she just needs to endure. Her face is cast in shadow, her expression hardened with quiet determination. Dressed as a maid, Adriana stands proudly with a mop, declaring her cleaning preparations complete. A worried maid offers to help, but Adriana cheerfully refuses, not wanting the other girl to get fired if they're caught. Beaming with confidence, she turns to her task with a bright and positive attitude. Adriana energetically begins mopping the grand hallway floor. She moves on to meticulously dusting the ornate staircase banister. Standing on a small ladder, she diligently wipes down a large, sunlit window. She pauses to wipe sweat from her brow, smiling with satisfaction at her hard work. Sparkle. The grand room, complete with a piano, shines brilliantly after her thorough cleaning. Sparkle. The staircase gleams, and she mentally cheers at how sparkling everything is. She reflects that while the original noble daughter was useless, her own past life as a housekeeper made her an expert at all domestic chores. Adriana laughs to herself about being perfect at everything, just as Sharon appears and snidely remarks that the maid outfit suits her. With a condescending smirk, Sharon suggests that cleaning might be Adriana's true calling. Caught off guard, Adriana turns and stammers Sharon's name. Instead of wilting, Adriana surprises her stepsister by flashing a bright, cheerful smile. Adriana stands confidently before a silent, arms-crossed Sharon, who seems taken aback by her reaction. Sharon thinks to herself, admitting that Adriana's recent behavior has been bothering her. She recalls how Adriana used to cower in her room after being bullied, but now she's completely different, with a forced smile. Sharon seems to concede, saying, "All right then," as Adriana watches her cautiously. Bam! With a vicious kick and a loud splash, Sharon knocks over the bucket of soapy water. Then, go ahead and finish, Sharon commands mockingly, leaving Adriana staring in shock at the new mess. Cackling with cruel laughter, Sharon turns and walks away, leaving Adriana to her ruined work. Roll! Adriana stares at the overturned bucket and spilled water, sighing in weary defeat. Fuming internally, she thinks, "Sharon, you little brat," as she begins to wipe up the mess. Wipe! As she angrily cleans the floor again, another maid kneels down to help her. Adriana looks up in surprise as the kind maid starts wiping the floor beside her. Adriana warns her that she'll get in trouble, but the maid just asks her to keep it a secret. The maid gently takes Adriana's hand, a gesture of solidarity that leaves her stunned. She remembers her lonely past, when all the other maids simply ignored her suffering. Touched by this unexpected kindness, Adriana gives a small, heartfelt smile. Later that night, Adriana furiously thinks about the villains in her own home. Fume. She can't believe her stepmother and Sharon are petty enough to deny her dinner. Suddenly, a small boy with bright blue eyes appears, happily clutching a loaf of bread. Adriana asks why he is out in the dark, and the boy trembles nervously. Thrust. He quickly shoves the bread into her hands, leaving her completely surprised. A voice calls for Rudo, and he is led away as Adriana watches, holding the unexpected gift. Adriana is left alone in the hallway, looking down at the bread with a thoughtful expression. She holds the warm loaf of bread, a simple yet profound act of kindness. Realizing her half-brother gave her the food, she feels a glimmer of hope that someone is on her side. A warm smile spreads across Adriana's face as she realizes she is not entirely alone. Creak. As Adriana approaches a doorway, two maids greet her with a welcoming smile. They usher her inside, telling her they have been waiting for her, much to her surprise. Adriana is bewildered by the scene, wondering if she stumbled into some kind of party. The maids proudly present a table laden with a delicious feast just for her. One of the maids kindly invites Adriana to sit, explaining they were waiting to eat with her. They tell her they cooked extra on their day off and urge her to eat, leaving Adriana touched and speechless. The camera pans over a lavish spread of soup, steak, and pasta, all sparkling beautifully. In the kitchen, the maids share a moment of cheerful camaraderie. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Adriana beams with pure, unadulterated joy. She reflects that in her miserable past, she never took the time to truly see the people around her. A memory shows her younger self crying alone, unnoticed by her half-brother Rudo, who then walked away. She realizes with a smile that the attitudes of those around her are finally beginning to change. With newfound hope, Adriana stands gratefully in the warm light of her new friendships. The scene shifts to a lively tea party, where the upcoming National Founders Banquet is the main topic of conversation. A young noblewoman with green hair is introduced as Miss Charant. Miss Charant excitedly announces that a mysterious figure is making his first public appearance at the banquet. Two other ladies excitedly gossip about Count Relampago, the rumored wealthiest and most handsome man on the continent. Flinch. Adriana is put on the spot when Miss Charant asks for her opinion of the Count. Her mind flashes to a memory of the masked Sir Bellegarde. Thinking of Bellegarde, Adriana speculates that the Count probably likes stuffed bunny toys, baffling her friends. Adriana nervously laughs along as Miss Charant attributes her odd comment to banquet jitters. The conversation turns to Princess Cynthia, who is present at the tea party. Princess Cynthia asks about the special event planned for the second day of the banquet. She reveals that this year's event will be a grand masquerade ball. A collection of beautiful and ornate masks is displayed on a table. Princess Cynthia kindly offers to lend Adriana any mask she likes. Leaning in, Cynthia tells Adriana that she has a fun idea. Princess Cynthia puts a friendly arm around a blushing Adriana, drawing her into a playful conspiracy. Cynthia proposes they use enchanted dyes to swap appearances for the ball. She'll take Adriana's look, and Adriana will get silver hair. Confetti rains down on the Grand Palace as the celebration for National Founders Day begins. Adriana arrives at the magnificent ballroom, her eyes wide with awe at the dazzling spectacle. Now dressed in an elegant ball gown, Adriana takes a steadying sip of her drink amidst the splendor. A girl in a green dress, Miss Charant, hurries Adriana along, questioning why she is still there. Miss Charant excitedly announces the arrival of Count Relampago, but Adriana internally admits she's already met him. Insisting it's a rare opportunity, Miss Charant drags a protesting Adriana to see the Count. Adriana stands nervously in the crowd as Count Relampago is seen with a serious expression. He turns and walks directly toward a wide-eyed and flustered Adriana. He greets her with a dazzling smile, leaving her completely stunned. Miss Charant angrily asks why Adriana didn't tell her she knew Count Relampago, to which Adriana snaps back that she never asked. Bam! As he starts to express his concern, Adriana decisively stomps on his foot to silence him. Grind. She laughs nervously, feigning ignorance of what he could possibly be talking about. Mortified, Adriana whispers a reminder about keeping a customer's identity secret. Grind. She warns Count Relampago to be careful what he says, as many people are watching them. He listens to her hushed warning with a knowing, unbothered smile. He tells a wary Adriana there is one way she can shut his mouth. He extends his hand, formally asking her for a dance. Pop. The scene transitions to a lively town square during a festival. A vendor hands Adriana a pair of freshly grilled sausages on sticks. Now in casual clothes, Adriana spots him in the crowd and cheerfully calls out, Ken. She excitedly presents the sausages to Ken. Ken accepts the food with a thank you as she asks if such a simple treat is all right. He playfully reminds her that buying all the food in the market would still be cheaper than the seafood meal she once bought him. At a bustling festival, a playful argument ensues as one person declares a sausage makes them even, while the other grumbles at their ridiculousness. A man with silver hair smiles contentedly, holding a sausage on a stick. Adriana and the man enjoy the festival sights together, watching a jester perform for the crowd. They sit on a bench, sharing a pleasant moment while eating pastries. Adriana happily eats her snack as the man watches her with a fond expression. He kindly offers her a neatly wrapped gift. At a toy stall, a shopkeeper looks on as they browse shelves filled with stuffed animals and trinkets. Adriana winks playfully while holding up a small, sparkling purchase. The man smiles, holding up a small, delicate-looking hairpin he has chosen. As he stands proudly, a flustered Adriana realizes the cost of their fun. A hand holds up a small, sparkling bottle of juice. He offers to pay for their outing, but Adriana wisely notes that nothing is more expensive than a free gift. He sits beside her, smiling as she holds the bottle of juice he bought her. He sincerely thanks Adriana for spending the day with him, catching her by surprise. Agreeing that time is more valuable than money, Adriana accepts his treat. He gives a soft, satisfied smile. He informs a surprised Adriana that he unfortunately has a prior appointment. Adriana teases him about his daily masquerade, prompting him to nervously explain his mask is just for business. She hides a giggle, amused by his reaction. Adriana confesses this is her first time truly enjoying a festival and thanks her companion, Ken. She turns to Ken, knowingly asking if he understands her difficult home situation. Revealing her past isolation, she explains she was always trapped inside the house as Ken listens intently. Adriana smiles wistfully, reflecting on her lonely upbringing. She explains her family dynamic, mentioning an older brother at boarding school and her young brother, Rudolph. Her expression grows somber as she continues to open up about her family. With her eyes closed, Adriana admits her greatest fear. She is completely powerless. She laments that she can't stop the Magnolia Trading House from bankrupting her family. Ken looks down, troubled and speechless after hearing her confession. With a gentle smile, Adriana tells him not to worry about her problems. Ken reveals he's less concerned with business and more worried about the people who would poison her. Adriana turns to him, surprised and touched by his deep-seated concern for her safety. Ken offers her a look of gentle reassurance. Standing before a seated Ken, Adriana's mood shifts as the sun begins to set. She suddenly has a bright idea, much to Ken's confusion. They stand together, a comfortable and knowing silence between them. A vendor enthusiastically invites Adriana to browse a selection of beautiful bracelets. Her attention is captured by a particularly stunning, pink and gold-beaded bracelet. Adriana whispers that the bracelet is very pretty as Ken looks on. The gorgeous bracelet sparkles in its box, clearly a piece of fine craftsmanship. The vendor praises her taste, while Ken observes with a thoughtful expression. Ken reveals the bracelet is more than just jewelry. It has an enchantment on it. Adriana reacts with shock, stunned to learn the bracelet is magical. Flustered, she insists that he really doesn't need to buy it for her. Ignoring her protests, Ken gently takes her hand to put the bracelet on. He carefully fastens the enchanted bracelet around her wrist. He explains the gift as his apology for his ridiculous behavior earlier. A blushing Adriana is left speechless by his unexpected kindness. She looks down at her wrist, feeling flustered by the thoughtful gesture. Ken smiles warmly, telling her that the bracelet really suits her. The enchanted pink bracelet gleams beautifully on Adriana's wrist. Ken announces he must leave for the masquerade ball. He stops suddenly as Adriana tries to call out to him. He turns to face her with a serious, unreadable expression. A voice confirms items have been sent to Crescent Street, and Ken approves of the arrangement. Standing confidently against a sunset, Ken awaits the next move. An internal monologue compares pampered hothouse blooms to something stronger. Adriana reflects on the enduring beauty of wildflowers that survive wind and rain. The scene transitions to a grand, sparkling estate at night, the venue for the masquerade ball. Inside, masked guests mingle and chat in the brightly lit ballroom. Schwa, a cascade of shimmering white hair, marks a dramatic entrance. Wearing a stunning dress and an ornate mask, Adriana makes her disguised appearance. She glances back over her shoulder, surveying the crowded ballroom. Adriana spots another guest, recognizing her as Cynthia. She approaches Cynthia and compliments her charming black hair, receiving a shy thank you. Cynthia explains her elder brother's absence, noting his dislike for large parties. Adriana is taken aback by Cynthia's cheerful demeanor. As Adriana begins to refuse a dance, Cynthia enthusiastically accepts an offer from someone else. Breathing a quiet sigh of relief, Adriana thinks to herself that Cynthia's quick acceptance was a surprise. She watches Cynthia happily dancing, observing that the princess seems to be enjoying herself. Deciding to get a drink, Adriana overhears nearby guests gossiping. She listens intently from a distance, her expression hidden behind her mask. The guests' cruel rumor about the Crescente daughter's supposed cognitive deficits reaches her ears. She cheerfully returns to a tired Cynthia, drink in hand. A masked man asks Cynthia how many songs she danced, and she admits she lost count after 6. Fanning a laugh, Adriana deliberately drops her glass, shattering it on the floor. The sound causes a panic as guests scream and wonder what happened. Suddenly, the ballroom is plunged into darkness, and the screams intensify. In the chaos, Adriana tries to call out for Cynthia, while another voice desperately searches for my lady. A hooded figure grabs Adriana from behind, warning that this will hurt a little, as her eyes widen in terror. The mysterious figure carries the unconscious Adriana away, her mask falling to the floor. Her consciousness fades as she weakly looks at her hand, a broken earring falling from her grasp. Her last thought is a bewildered question of what is happening as her mask lies abandoned. A distraught Cynthia explains to Leopold how the lights went out and Adriana vanished in the ensuing chaos. Furious, Leopold demands to know who was in charge of security as the guards bow in apology. His expression is cold with anger as he processes the failure. He reasons that since everyone was masked, the kidnapper must have specifically targeted Lady Crescente. Cynthia worriedly asks if it was an attack aimed at the Duchess, but Leopold remains pensively silent. A horrifying thought strikes Cynthia. The intruder was probably aiming for the silver-haired girl, her original identity. The terrible truth sets in. Lady Crescente was mistakenly kidnapped instead of the imperial princess. I dream of health, wealth, and a long life. A dark, ominous texture fills the screen, signaling a change in scene and mood. Disembodied voices argue in the dark, one insisting the target had silver hair at the ball. Blink! Adriana slowly regains consciousness, annoyed by the loud argument and wondering where she is. Slap! Her eyes fly open at the sharp sound of a slap and a furious shout. On the floor of a stone cell, she sees a blonde man standing over the hooded figure who abducted her. Adriana glares at the hooded figure, the memory of her abduction flashing in her mind. She coldly accuses him. Keel, you kidnapped me, and he admits it was a mistake. SHHNG. Unwilling to release her, Keel draws his sword with a grim look. Clack! He presses the cold steel of the blade against her neck, leaving her shocked and terrified. Keel looks down at her somberly, declaring that it seems this was always her fate. Keel remarks that Bellegarde's words don't fit the current dangerous situation. Adriana thanks Belgrade for saving her life, but trails off, looking uncertain. She stares at him with wide, questioning eyes, trying to understand his actions. Bellegarde looks back at her, his expression serious and his pointed ear visible. He apologizes and promises it will never happen again, prompting her to ask if he's given up on kidnapping the princess. Adriana waits for his answer, her expression still filled with surprise. Bellegarde gazes at her intently before giving his response. He takes a determined step forward, declaring that demons always keep their word. His sudden movement and solemn declaration leave Adriana momentarily speechless. Kneel. To her complete shock, Adriana calls his name as Sir Bellegarde kneels before her. Slide. He gently takes her hand in his, preparing to make a vow. Holding her hand, he swears that as long as he lives, he will protect her. Adriana blushes as he completes his oath, promising that she will always be safe. He remains kneeling, holding her hand with unwavering devotion. In a wide, scenic view, Bellegarde pledges his loyalty to Adriana against a golden sunset. Looking down at him, Adriana is clearly moved by his unexpected and solemn vow. After Bellegarde safely returns her to the human world, they arrive at a grand estate. A woman with white hair runs towards Adriana, crying with relief. Adriana comforts the crying woman, while Lowenhartz and several maids watch. Lowenhartz explains that he was questioned extensively about the culprits behind the incident. Adriana cheerfully explains that she told everyone she was too shocked to remember anything. She internally confirms she kept the identities of Bellegarde and Kiel a secret. Adriana believes that Lowenhartz likely agreed with her decision to stay silent. As a result of the incident, a few palace guards and knights were dismissed. Standing beside Lowenhartz, Adriana ponders the true outcome of the event. She suspects that despite the official story, the Emperor may have noticed something was amiss. Second Prince Lowenhartz and Princess Cynthia stand together, their roles in the aftermath solidified. Adriana gazes out a window, a thoughtful and subtle smile on her face. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day at her family's mansion. Pluck. While picking flowers, Adriana reflects on the time after she was kidnapped. Hearing footsteps, she thinks about going to see who it is. A young woman with red hair confronts her, coldly stating she didn't have to return. The red-haired woman, Sharon, stands with her arms crossed, her expression full of scorn. Sharon venomously says it would have been better if Adriana had never been returned. As Adriana listens sadly, Sharon insists that nobody is happy to see her back. Adriana silently agrees, but considers that her elder brother would worry and rush home if she vanished. She knows her kind brother would blame himself for not being present to protect her. Sharon grows distressed, worrying that his return would lead to him becoming the head of the family. Talk! She suddenly shouts, dismissing the idea as ridiculous. In a fit of rage, Sharon violently slaps the bouquet of flowers from Adriana's hands. Tumble. The flowers scatter as Sharon angrily questions the idea of Adriana's brother taking over. She furiously demands if Adriana truly believes her mother would ever give up the position of head. Her angry words echo as she continues her tirade. Crush. Sharon contemptuously stomps on the flowers Adriana had gathered. Adriana watches in shock as Sharon realizes she's been relying on her brother's return. Sharon mocks her hope, declaring that her brother can never return. She laughs cruelly at Adriana, who can only stare back with a somber expression. Clench. Adriana silently vows that Sharon will be the one who disappears like a bad dream. Excuse me, my lady. A maid and a messenger arrive, with the maid announcing the messenger has something for her. As Adriana confirms his identity, a delivery man interrupts, presenting a large bouquet of red roses to a surprised Adriana. The delivery man explains that a gentleman asked him to deliver the sparkling bouquet to her. Holding the flowers, Adriana smiles and wonders about the sender's identity, before having a sudden realization. HMPH. A young woman with red hair, Sharon, interrupts, insisting there's been a mistake and the flowers must be for her. Sharon confidently asks for the flowers, but the delivery man calmly states that his delivery information is correct. He clarifies the gift is for the lady with black hair, leaving Sharon stunned and furious. Sharon angrily demands to know who sent the present, while Adriana looks on anxiously. Grabbing Adriana, Sharon speculates the gift is from the second prince, and threatens her to reveal the truth. Sharon is flabbergasted when the delivery man politely refuses to reveal the sender's identity. He warns that his master will not tolerate any harm coming to Adriana, causing Sharon to flinch back. Furious at the man's impudence, Sharon glares while Adriana watches nervously. Bump. With a frustrated huff, Sharon deliberately bumps into Adriana as she storms off. As Adriana fumes over the rude encounter, the delivery man cheerfully bids her farewell. Leia explains to Adriana that Sharon likely backed down to avoid causing trouble with a high-ranking family. Adriana discovers a card addressed to Rianne and signed by Kenneth of the Magnolia Trading House. Her thoughts race as she recognizes the Magnolia Trading House insignia on the card. She realizes Ken sent the flowers along with an invitation to a street theater. Examining the invitation, she notices it's a single ticket for a play called Alibaba. Adriana holds the single ticket, quietly contemplating its meaning. A memory of Kenneth's charming, winking smile flashes through her mind. She wonders about his intentions for sending her such an invitation. Leia returns, happily presenting a tray with more mail for Adriana. Adriana thanks Leia, who sets the tray down to give her some privacy. She smiles warmly as she sees the letters are from Theodore, addressed to Rianne. In his letter, Theodore explains that he only recently learned of her kidnapping. He writes that a woman named Ramona had to calm him down after he heard the shocking news. Theodore expresses deep regret, believing he could have prevented the incident if he had been there. Reading his apology for not being able to return, Adriana smiles, understanding that he must be busy. She recalls that Theodore, Ramona, and Claudia are occupied with suppressing a rebellion in the celestial realm. Clink. A tear falls as she reads his promise to write again, urging her to stay well. Click. She opens a small box that came with the letters, finding a necklace inside. Opening the locket, she is stunned to find a beautiful portrait of her mother. She tearfully recalls how her stepmother, Marianne, had discarded all of her mother's belongings. Gazing at the portrait, she realizes with gratitude that Theodore must have kept it safe for her. Clench. She clutches the precious locket tightly in her hands. With a gentle smile, she quietly thanks Theodore for his thoughtful gift. The scene lingers on Theodore's heartfelt letters resting on her desk. Holding her ticket and rabbit, Adriana arrives at a bustling street, confirming the address. She finds herself standing before a large festive circus tent for the campaign theatrical company. She spots a line of people entering the tent and realizes where to go. She quickly makes her way toward the entrance to join the audience. Clamor. Inside, she finds the theater is filled with a large, noisy crowd. Seated with her rabbit, Adriana feels slightly overwhelmed by the number of people around her. Her attention is captured as the lights dim, signaling the start of the show. An actor in a turban and vest appears on stage, revealed to be a disguised Ken, welcoming the audience. Waving from the stage, Ken charms the crowd with a bright, welcoming smile. From his position on stage, Ken's gaze sweeps over the audience, where Adriana watches intently. Clap, clap. The sound of enthusiastic applause echoes from inside the festive circus tent. The clamor of the audience continues as the view shifts to the backstage area. Backstage, a voice calls out to Lady Rianne, and Adriana turns in surprise. Ken greets her with a welcoming smile, formally thanking her for coming. Adriana compliments his professional-level acting, but he explains it's just a stress-relieving hobby. He playfully asks if she'd like to try acting with him, an offer she politely refuses. Ken cheekily notes that's unexpected, since she's so good at pretending, which clearly annoys her. She wonders if he invited her just for an insult, while he mentally kicks himself for being rude again. His expression softens into one of genuine sincerity as he looks at her. Ken explains he wanted to lift her spirits after hearing about her recent unpleasant experience. He expresses deep regret, saying he would have attended the masquerade ball if he'd known what would happen. He apologizes for not being there, but Adriana insists he couldn't have predicted it and shouldn't feel guilty. Still, she can't help but wonder how such a thing could have possibly occurred. She reflects on the fact that the kidnapping happened at the Imperial Palace, the most protected place in the country. Ken gravely adds that there is unusual movement happening in the shadows. Adriana states her belief that the Marin Trading House was deliberately targeting him that day. She internally resolves that she, too, must always be careful. She tells him that she never lets her guard down, even within the supposed safety of her own home. Despite the grim conversation, Adriana offers a bright and determined smile. The scene shifts to the exterior of the mansion as evening approaches. Inside, Leia is seen running forward with a look of absolute panic. Adriana, having just returned, asks what's wrong, and the frantic Leia struggles to answer. With the sound of hurried steps, a sharp slap suddenly echoes through the hall. Kia, an enraged Sharon, has just struck Adriana across the face while Leia screams in shock. Adriana collapses to the floor as Leia cries out her name, and Sharon hurls insults. Trembling, Adriana hears footsteps approach and a cold voice expressing disappointment in Rianne. It's her stepmother, Marianne, standing over her and holding letters, with a smug Sharon at her side. Flinch. Marianne cruelly grabs Adriana's face, forcing her to look up. Adriana realizes, with dread, that Marianne is holding Theodore's letters. The violation sinks in as she understands they searched her room, and a distraught Leia apologizes profusely. Leia explains that she tried to intervene, but Sharon simply forced her way in. With a condescending sigh, Marianne begins to lecture Adriana, claiming she warned her before. She manipulates the situation, framing Adriana's letters as a distraction to her brother studying abroad. Marianne claims Theodore is simply too kind to tell Adriana to stop bothering him himself. She dismisses Adriana's feelings entirely, saying she's too young to understand such matters. Terror, with a final warning not to do it again, Marianne begins to rip the letters. Adriana screams, "Don't!" but watches in horror as her stepmother tears the letters to shreds. As the destroyed pieces of Theodore's letters flutter to the ground, Adriana is devastated. She immediately blames herself, thinking that she was far too careless. Grind. Marianne grinds the torn scraps under her heel while Adriana regrets not being more careful. Still not satisfied, Marianne coldly demands she hand something else over. Adriana is stunned into silence as the locket from Theodore begins to glow faintly around her neck. She desperately pleads that Marianne can't take it, but her stepmother just says her name with chilling finality. Flash Sharon's eyes glow with a menacing light as she threatens Adriana with another beating and confinement. Boom! The threat hits Adriana with terrifying force, and she clutches her chest in fear. Trembling uncontrollably, she stammers that the locket is the only thing she has left. She begs them to let her keep it, but Marianne and Sharon only stare back with cold indifference. Clench, gripping the locket, she thinks that, even with the memories of her previous life, she can't escape the deep trauma of the abuse she suffered as a child in this life. She tries desperately to remain calm, but her hands won't stop trembling. Marianne orders Sharon to take the locket from her neck, and Sharon eagerly agrees. Adriana flinches as Sharon moves in, hearing her stepmother's final chilling command, "Now." With a greedy smile, Sharon reaches out and demands Adriana give her the item. "Fwick." Adriana flinches and pulls back, refusing to hand it over. "Zack." With a cry, Sharon stumbles back, yelling in frustration. Filled with rage, Sharon threatens Adriana, who looks back in shock. Slap! A loud impact rings out as a voice cries for Sharon to stop. A hand intercepts the attack as a voice pleads not to bother Adriana. A maid bravely steps between them, blocking Sharon's path. Adriana cries out in shock, calling the maid by her name, Leah. While restraining a furious Sharon, Leah urges Adriana to run away immediately. Adriana hesitates, frozen with fear and indecision. As her stepmother arrives and calls her name, Adriana sees her chance to escape the chaos. With newfound resolve, Adriana turns and flees from the mansion. She runs frantically through the cobblestone streets of a town at night. Waver. Her footing is unsteady as she hurries through the unfamiliar area. She finally stops to catch her breath, her expression grimly determined. A memory of Sharon's attack flashes through her mind. She then recalls her stepmother, Marianne, smiling smugly while reading a letter. Grit. Adriana clenches her teeth, thinking of the names of her tormentors, Sharon and Marianne. Bump. Distracted, she collides with a man who angrily shouts at her. He curses as she moves on, her mind still reeling from the confrontation. Her flight leads her to the entrance of a dark, foreboding district. A grimy sign identifies the area as Blacktown, confirming her grim destination. She realizes she jumped into the first available carriage and ended up in this dangerous place. Adriana stands silently at the entrance, her face a mask of resolve. She takes a purposeful step forward, entering the notorious district. Creek, an old, hooded woman with spectacles, peers out from a doorway. Creek, the old woman welcomes Adriana as she enters a mysterious shop. Glance. Adriana cautiously looks around the dimly lit interior. The shop is an apothecary, its shelves lined with countless jars and ingredients illuminated by candlelight. She walks deeper into the strange shop, searching for something specific. Her eyes widen in recognition as she spots her target. She identifies a shimmering potion under a glass dome, realizing, that's it. The name of the deadly concoction is revealed to be Belladonna's Tears. She stares at the bottle, knowing a single drop of the lethal poison can kill instantly. A desperate thought crosses her mind. With this poison, her problems could be over. A dark fantasy plays out, showing Sharon collapsed on the floor beside a spilled cup. In her vision, Marianne also lies motionless on the ground. Adriana imagines herself standing over the bodies of her two abusers, her eyes glowing. Her expression in the vision is one of cold triumph. Looking down at the scene, she thinks with satisfaction, I did it. She begins to laugh, believing she is finally free. But bam, the door bursts open and a voice calls her full name. Her moment of triumph is shattered as a knight declares her under arrest for murder. Clang! Trapped and desperate, she screams about the torment she endured. The nightmare continues with her behind bars, crying out in protest. She grips the cold bars of her cell, her face filled with despair. Her final desperate thought echoes, I just wanted to be free. In a spotlight, she kneels in judgment as a man stands behind her. Turning, she sees her brother Theodore, who asks how she could do something so unthinkable as she begs him to listen. He looks at her with disappointment as she cries out about her suffering. Adriana wakes up screaming in her bed, realizing the entire horrific sequence was just a nightmare. A friendly bartender thanks Sir Bellegarde and offers to make him mulled wine as he dusts off his hands. Clatter, Bellegarde and Adriana arrive in a warm, well-lit room. Startled by the noise, Adriana looks around in confusion. She learns she is in Café Elixir, a neutral zone for humans and demons in Blacktown, where safety is guaranteed. Bellegarde advises her to come to the cafe if she's in trouble, calling the owner careless, which he immediately protests, while Bellegarde calmly points out that his very tone proves the point. Giggle. Adriana laughs, enjoying a pleasant moment at the bar with Bellegarde and the bartender. She smiles, feeling a sense of peace and warmth she hasn't felt in a long time. She silently thanks the gentleman who brought her to this safe haven. Bellegarde stands beside her, a quiet protector in the bustling cafe. Noticing her troubled thoughts, Bellegarde softly asks if she'd like him to inquire about something for her. Adriana simply smiles, remaining silent as she processes her feelings. She clenches her hands, recalling how her anger almost drove her to do something catastrophic. She feels immense guilt, yet still wishes someone would notice how much she's been struggling. Memory of her younger, helpless self surfaces as she reflects that no one ever noticed her pain. Surrounded by an illusion of flowers, Adriana concludes that hoping for rescue won't work. Bellegarde watches her, his expression growing serious as he senses her distress. Pat. He gently pats her head in a comforting gesture. With a kind look, Bellegarde praises her for having endured so well. Adriana looks up at him, stunned and touched by his unexpected words of validation. With a small, hopeful smile, she quietly agrees with him. Looking at her meal, she renews her resolve to endure until the very end. As night falls over Café Elixir, the thought of closing up for the evening arises. The bartender notices that Adriana has started nodding off at the counter. Exhaustion finally catches up to Adriana, and she falls asleep sitting at the bar. The bartender kindly offers an empty room upstairs for her to rest, and Bellegarde accepts with a nod of thanks. Bellegarde gently carries the sleeping Adriana in his arms, surrounded by a cascade of roses. He walks away with her, carrying her to a safe place to rest for the night. Creak! The scene shifts to a quiet, moonlit guest room. He carefully lays her in bed, watching over her with a gentle gaze. His expression is somber as he contemplates her difficult past. Adriana's desperate thoughts from her nightmare echo as she sleeps. Bellegarde listens intently as her subconscious reveals her feeling that no one would ever notice her pain. Standing by her bedside, Bellegarde makes a solemn vow to protect her. In her sleep, Adriana's expression softens into a peaceful smile. The bartender quietly ascends the stairs, holding a warm drink. He finds Bellegarde standing guard outside Adriana's door and asks if he's planning to stay there all night. Bellegarde explains he's watching over her, prompting a teasing question from the bartender that Bellegarde dismisses as nonsense. As the bartender watches, Bellegarde begins to explain his feelings about the girl. He claims that Adriana is like a little sister to him. The bartender responds with a knowing, silent smile. In his mind, the bartender muses that Bellegarde doesn't look at little sisters with such intense affection. The next morning, Adriana emerges, looking fully determined and ready for action. She turns to Bellegarde and the bartender, leaving them both stunned and confused by her sudden declaration. Refusing to leave, Adriana insists that she must repay them for their hospitality. Grr. Annoyed, she recalls being robbed and then considers making Bellegarde pay, an idea the bartender finds hilarious. Fwick. She immediately backtracks, realizing that making him pay would be even worse. Kaboom! Her forceful refusal to accept his unilateral help sends a shockwave of surprise through Bellegarde. PFFT. The bartender bursts into laughter at Bellegarde's bewildered expression, who wonders what he did wrong. A blonde woman in a riding helmet suggests a race, proposing that the prince can be the judge. She asks Sharon for her opinion, who remains silent and thoughtful. With a smirk, Sharon agrees to the race, thinking it sounds good. Collapse. The scene flashes to Rianne, looking utterly exhausted as she slumps into a chair. At a riding enclosure, two women on horseback prepare to race, while a silver-haired man watches. Rianne observes from afar. Rianne realizes Lady Elvendot is racing to get Prince Lowenhart's attention and is relieved she won't have to deal with him. HMPH. Rianne pouts, wondering if she just rubs the lady the wrong way. Her expression shifts to one of sudden shock as she notices something amiss. Sharon and Lady Elvendot ride side by side, preparing for the competition. Rianne stares in alarm, wondering what she just saw in Sharon's hand. A sense of dread washes over Rianne as she watches Sharon's smug expression, getting a bad feeling about the race. Prince Lonehearts smiles brightly, telling the racers to get ready. As they line up, Lady Elvendot gives the command to get set. Whoosh! She yells, "Go!" And the two riders burst forward from the starting line. Gallop! Lady Elvendot takes an early lead, glancing back to taunt that she'll go on ahead. URK. Trailing behind, Sharon grinds her teeth in frustration. Gallop! Lady Elvendot smirks, mocking Sharon's riding skill and questioning if she actually thinks she can win. The horses continue to gallop furiously around the track. Both riders urge their horses on, racing at full speed. Fueled by rage, Sharon seethes at how Patricia Elvendot dares to look down on her. Swoosh! Sharon lunges forward with an object in her hand, yelling, "Take this!" Nay, Patricia's horse suddenly rears in pain, causing her to cry out in shock. Swish! Her eyes widen in terror as she screams, thrown from the spooked horse. Prince Lonehearts and two maids gasp in horror at the sudden accident. Tack. Attendants rush to the fallen Patricia, frantically urging her to wake up and calling for healers. Rianne watches the chaos unfold, covering her mouth in disbelief and shock. Sharon sits atop her horse, looking back at the scene with a cold, detached expression. Rianne connects the dots in horror, accusingly realizing Sharon must have stuck Patricia's horse with a needle. She understands now that the horse was deliberately startled, causing Patricia to fall. Rianne stares at Sharon's back, realizing with disgust that her stepsister will use any means necessary to win. A chilling thought crosses Rianne's mind. She can't wait any longer, as Sharon won't just stop at hurting Patricia. Later, Sharon calmly sips tea, gloating that Patricia won't be able to leave her house for months. An older woman asks if anyone saw what she did. Her mother scolds her for being so reckless in front of Prince Lonehearts, but Sharon casually dismisses the warning. Sharon smiles cruelly, admitting she enjoys crushing the pride of pompous women. Grip. Her hands tighten as she thinks that there's someone else she wants to deal with even more. Her anger focuses on Ryan as she regrets not having ended the miserable girl already. Sharon's expression hardens with murderous intent. She looks at her mother and declares that she can't wait any longer. Sharon fumes that Ryan is becoming too stuck up and questions why they must be so cautious around her. Her mother touches her chin thoughtfully, agreeing that Rianne has become quite troublesome. She sighs, lamenting that if Rianne had remained a quiet fool, she could have simply married her off. The mother holds her head, exasperatedly asking what they should do with her now. Sharon explodes with a simple, chilling solution. Just get rid of her. Her mother warns against it, stating that as Rianne's stepmother, she would be the prime suspect in any accident. Grit. She clenches her teeth, worried about what would happen to Rudolph if she were a suspect. Bam! Clatter. Sharon slams her hand on the table, furiously asking if they should just let Rianne be. Leaping to her feet, she shouts that she can't possibly do that. Fwick. Her mother calls her name in alarm as Sharon abruptly turns and storms away. With a look of pure rage and determination, Sharon marches out of the room. Flump. Rianne sleeps soundly in her bed, seemingly at peace. A maid asks Rianne if she enjoyed the equestrian gathering, to which she sighs and replies that it was the worst from beginning to end. Lying in bed, Rianne reflects that she initially saw Lonehearts as a lifeline, but now his presence feels suffocating. In a humorous thought bubble, Rianne imagines Lonehearts gleefully tying her up with a rope as she shouts in protest, realizing things have gone completely wrong. The maid, Leah, speculates that, since the prince is interested, Rianne might become the imperial princess, but Rianne nervously tells her not to say such things. Rianne warns Leah that she would be in big trouble if her mother or Sharon overheard, and Leah gasps in understanding. Rianne's attention is drawn to the scarred wounds on Leah's hands. She sadly remembers that Leah was punished for covering for her and allowing her to escape. Rianne gently holds Leah's wrist, stating that her mother was the one who beat her. She looks at Leah with deep concern and regret in her eyes. Leah looks back at Rianne, her expression tearful and moved by her lady's concern. Rianne and Leah share a heartfelt moment, holding hands and smiling warmly at one another. The scene transitions to a quiet, winding street in a medieval town at night. Two women with pointed ears stand on a street corner, one holding a long smoking pipe. A mysterious figure in an ornate dark hood walks through the bustling nighttime streets. Believing she is in a disgusting area, the hooded figure passes two disheveled men drinking in an alley. Grab. One of the men suddenly seizes her arm, trying to get her attention. Two men with pointed ears corner the hooded figure, asking if she is lost and warning that it's not a place for little girls to play. Slap. She strikes their hands away, demanding they let her go as they make an unwelcome invitation. Throwing back her hood, Sharon furiously reveals herself and declares she is an aristocrat, demanding they stay away. One of the men scoffs at her noble status, but his companion quickly stops him, urging him to wait. Her aggressor's friend whispers a warning, reminding him of someone they were told not to touch, which piques Sharon's interest. The two men quickly back down, nervously apologizing for mistaking her for someone else. Sharon smugly concludes that her noble status must have successfully intimidated them. Changing her tune, she offers to let them assist her instead of punishing them, leaving the two men startled. She asks if they know the area well, then reveals she is looking for a strong poison. Sharon waits with her arms crossed as the men process her ominous request. The two men return with a small pouch, confirming they have acquired what she asked for. Russell. One of them hands Sharon the poison, cautioning her to use only a single drop. She inspects the vial of potent, glowing poison and smirks, musing that one drop should be enough for an instant kill. When she asks the price, the men nervously refuse payment, begging her to forget their earlier rudeness. Sharon realizes they are terrified of her and delights in the power her ducal family status affords her. She recalls being ignored as a baron's daughter but smiles, knowing her current status has changed everything. With a sinister look, Sharon admires the sparkling vial of poison she now holds. Clutching the poison, she declares with a sneer that Rianne is now dead. Sharon daydreams of becoming the Duke's only daughter and finally capturing Prince Loneheart's full attention. Stand! Bellegarde bolts up in shock, having overheard that a noble lady bought poison. He asks the bartender what the lady looked like, specifically if she had black hair, but the bartender says no. The two men who sold the poison describe the buyer as a girl with red hair and upward slanting eyes, which worries Bellegarde. Picturing Rianne, Bellegarde confirms to himself that the person who bought the poison was not her. The bartender warns Bellegarde that Blacktown poison is deadly and used by assassins, wondering why a noble lady would buy it. Bellegarde silently recalls Rianne's recent confession that she almost did something stupid out of anger. Clench. He remembers her feelings of guilt and her desperate wish for someone to notice her pain. With a grim expression, Bellegarde admits to himself that he has a very bad feeling about the situation. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand mansion under a starry night sky. Tap, tap. A sound awakens a sleepy Rianne, who wonders what she just heard. Wrapping a shawl around herself, she opens the doors to her balcony, suspecting a tree branch fell. Fwick. Her eyes fly open in shock as she sees a figure standing on her balcony. She is stunned to find Bellegarde there, asking how he came to be on her balcony and if he was sleeping. As he apologizes for waking her, she frantically questions how he managed to climb to such a high place. Bellegarde comically explains that demons can see in the dark, making his climb easy, while Rianne retorts that he completely missed her point. His expression turns serious as he admits he had a bad feeling and felt compelled to check on her, despite the late hour. Flinch. Rianne recoils slightly, stunned by his intuition. Her thoughts drift to an image of a poison vial as she looks down, her expression troubled. Rianne confesses to a surprised Bellegarde that she did consider buying poison. She clarifies that she ultimately decided against it, remembering the moment she chose to run away instead. Bellegarde explains he grew worried after hearing a young, red-haired noble lady bought poison in Blacktown and came to ensure she wasn't involved. Rianne repeats his words in shock, her eyes widening as she immediately suspects who the red-haired lady could be. Her thoughts land on a single name as an image of Sharon flashes in her mind. Noticing her stunned silence, Bellegarde asks if she has figured something out. Grip. Rianne clenches her fist, confirming that she thinks she knows who bought the poison. Bellegarde immediately offers to handle the situation himself if she reveals the person's identity. Rianne acknowledges the danger of the poison, but then smiles slyly, realizing this could be an opportunity. Surrounded by a vision of blooming roses, Rianne's expression hardens with newfound resolve. Bellegarde immediately objects to her unspoken plan, shouting that it's far too dangerous. He frantically warns her that the slightest mistake could cost her her life, but Rianne remains silent and determined. Rianne reflects that braving some dangers is necessary if she is to escape her cruel destiny. She tells a worried Belgrade that she can't miss this chance to finally fight back. The two stare at each other, Rianne's determination meeting Bellegarde's deep concern. Bellegarde sees the same stubborn look in Rianne's eyes that his little sister once had. He resigns himself to the fact that she will not give up, even if he refuses to help her. Rianne looks up with a hint of surprise, sensing his change of heart. Bellegarde reluctantly agrees to her plan, but makes her promise never to do anything dangerous. Rianne listens intently to his condition. She beams with absolute trust, declaring that Sir Bellegarde will surely save her if danger arises, causing him to falter in surprise. The scene transitions to a sunlit, grand ducal estate. Inside, Rian sits among a gathering of elegantly dressed noblewomen. A gossiping noblewoman worries about the immaturity of a Lady Adriana from the Crescenti family, who is soon to be married. Rian and a white-haired lady listen, and Rian wonders what sort of rumor is about to be spread. The gossiping noblewoman then claims that a certain young lady has been frequenting the dangerous Black Town, shocking her companions. Glance. She pointedly looks toward Rian's direction while agreeing with another that it's an awful thing for a lady to do. Continuing her veiled accusations, she speaks of the unsavory people there while still looking toward Rian. PFT. Elsewhere in the room, Sharon smirks, enjoying the whispers and the unfolding drama she likely orchestrated. The white-haired lady beside Rian looks worriedly toward her, murmuring the name Lady Adriana. Rian understands this is a targeted attack, as the gossiping women smile smugly. She realizes they are twisting the time she was found in Blacktown after running away to use a slander against her. As the woman continues her malicious gossip, Rian sits confidently, inwardly challenging her accuser and refusing to be a victim.